I make your bitch cruise shit stools. I put a pistol in your mouth to pull, then I beat you to the pit bulls. Don't even talk about guns. The only 9 you got is a $5 bill and 4 ones. So I don't give a fuck what none of y'all niggas say. Cause anything that can't penetrate ricochets. Rhyming with me on the record, you might as well have died and went to hell instead of heaven. Cause my rhyme weapon is like a medieval torture method. Your 4 limbs tied to 4 horses, all pulling in different directions. In this profession, I get busy without a question. Seeing me is like seeing a vampire's reflection. Fast and slow flows connect like electrodes. I make a set tape that's blow when I'm in wreck mode. Explode, leaving areas abandoned. One more radiation behind the spots UFOs landing.
Is that all, soldier?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything you need?
No, sir.
Report back to me before the briefing. At ease.
Are you a Navy SEAL?
Yes, sir.
Then say it like you mean it. Tell them who freed from the Navy SEAL team is.
3B to 1 rockin' shit. Special operatives, specializing in weapon diagnostics. My survival tactics be drastic like Rambo. I'm strangling niggas with my bow and arrow elastic. Whoever said you couldn't be 5 feet and thoroughbred? Never witnessed the cerebral cortex in my head. How many gigabytes does your hard drive hold? Or does your hard drive fold once the signal hits the node? Beyond mission control, the theory behind your thought. Marie Internet behead me, I still rock. While you choking, suffocating off your own testosterone. I'm known for breaking levels down to the values unknown. A specimen with extraterrestrial estrogen. Kick your intestines in, sell your testicles to Mexicans. I bring the force like a nutcracker. Annihilate rhyme hackers, they be sealed linebacker. The last set of piss remains unclaimed. So if you buck against free, you better tattoo your name on your teeth. I disintegrate those that oppose. Incinerate holes with they assholes in they nose. I suppose you wanna run your mouth like a castanet. I put bitch niggas to rest in the bitch bassinet.
Is that all, soldier?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything you need?
Sir.
Report back to me before the briefing. At ease.
Are you a patriot?
Sir, yes, sir. Then say it like you mean it. Tell them who cannabis is from the Navy SEAL team. I'm the meanest motherfucker on this whole Navy SEAL team. And I can kill anything if it bleeds or breathes. Calling all bitch ass niggas and bitch ass bitches. I got a howitzer bigger than any 450s. Rapping is a raw business, but as an individual, I'm as different as anybody's fingerprint is. If boring is the norm, I'm the antonym. Put me in the same category you would put Marilyn Manson in. Bugging like a satanic evangelist. Jogging butt naked down Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. Every MC in your crew would get ruined and wounded. You talk bullshit and be too scared to do shit. I'm the type of nigga that'll prove it, produce shit. Spend so much time in the studio, I had to move in. A soldier who practices West Indian obeah. I can drink the poison from a king cobra. Cause long after y'all are dead and gone, I survived the nuclear holocaust like a roach hog party.
Is that all?
Sir, yes, sir.
Is there anything
Sir,
you need?
no, sir.
Report back to me before the briefing. At ease.
Making him suffer. Exactly.
Touch with rust and clutch, spun out of the dust and careen into the temples of automated destruct. Nanotech bugs in the plug and unplug. Vision for the fly shit hybrid. I run among the mud, skipper sworn through warnings and good warning Beirut. Little Billy blunderbuss looking for more recruits. City life is practice, casket truancy. That's the rule of you and me. Crash on mass lunacy. Friends used to laugh fast, crash little droop on me. Now they check the bags with a staff class and Uzis. Who deserves a rap without warning? This ain't got but a mortar with a sports scorch, New York forfeit. Run among the poppy fields, order some more clips. Store trips are rare, but the fare is forceless. Gloomy bought the city of Lego a shitty metal hole. Jitters to the floorboard, burn almost aborted. Flight of the accidental tourist morbid. The advertising god so oddly courtship. Godly corporate squad plot these tortures. Holiness is hard and it's costing God fortune. Guess he took a second job on a force to afford it. I don't want a part of these self-fulfilled prophecies. Man, it's too much for my stubbornness. I hate the people running shit. Sleeping ground, oh below, wishing you peaceful sleep. Horror on the surface emerges less frequently. Metal bars of ancient roads dissolved from the scenery. What the fuck? I'll take a hostage and walk through the mosh pit, pristine untouched. MB703's unscuffed. Trust is a commodity crushed by Pol Pot. Your cookie cutter laws contain flaws in philosophy. Toppling down a flight of Escher box steps to light. Cause the man that raped my sister won't sleep right tonight. Suppose the pretty horses and four could love more, but I'm exhausted by the scope of this dark god and opiates. Breakfast for the dystopian, ruthless whole movements. The seasonal effects of the butchery's looking good, and our writer's block is a prison camp with free press repress. We can hypnotize the herd. Fly visions that attack like Alfred Hitchcock, raise a rabbit carrier pitch. True, the only form of calm not tapped is trap strong in the cranium of future revel in this whistling song. I know you're listening. Get down with this bitch, whistle along.
Obedience is not enough. Power is inflicting pain and humiliation, otherwise you cannot be sure. Power is tearing human minds apart and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing.
It's like the Bilderbergs came to dinner with filthy birds. They pussy all infected, I'm looking for milky words. They pull my third eye out, then they let it dry out. Had to pour my belief in Christ to find out what I look like with no skin. The movement faded while the back of my paper is still illuminated. Even your though, flipped Egyptian euro. Got my website shut down by the bureau. Can't kick it with the dead until my life stops. But Bush got a Ouija to talk to Adam White's hot. I breed martyrs, turn fans to artists. Put a couple G's together before harvest. Like, I'll take all this. The hell I'm doing, dipping this whole fucking pound in embalming fluid. You think I rhyme to do it? If it's influence, try this. If you can't help but sleep, peel off the eyelids.
If you want a vision of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever.
It's the year 2010. You can say what you want, but I bet if you like this blunt, dummy, the feds will come running. Lock you up, lock you out. You ain't trying to listen. Cameras in your food, dude. Look, they trying to listen. Lock you up, lock you out. We got bugs in the house. We're being monitored. They know we got thugs in the house. Don't light your blunt, big. They'll hit you with a switch, hit you with a beam, hit you in the brain, make you go totally insane. Wildin' out. Guns in the spot, flipping on your nigga. They take you out. Then the fans push guns on the roof. They take them out. Snuff you out, cause you know too much. After that, you know your hoes get touched. Look. Then the meeting starts. You download your chick to a memory card, give her trips and send her to a city job.
Power is not a means, it is an end. In our world, there will only be triumph and self-abasement. Everything else we shall destroy.
You need more than an average MC. I'm like a condom. Don't try and do it without me. When I step on stage to do a show, I blow the spot with the bomb squad sitting in the front row. My dirty techniques to every green with bleach. My style was butt naked like a nude beach. And everybody gets a blue each when we partying. Dressed in black like military frogmen. Freestyler. Forget the pieces like a Rottweiler. Even a bootleg taping me is $10. Listen to what I'm saying to you now. I think my voice box of oil change every 3,000 styles. Because my styles be using knowledge, and my knowledge be adding up like the tour bus's mileage. I've been rocking rhymes since slavery was abolished. Rock solid, you get to see me with the open knowledge. Niggas say I'm whack, but I don't care what they say. I only remember 10% of what I hear anyway. And we can battle anytime, any day. I be watching niggas like David Hasselhoff on the bay. Because I need more energy than my enemies. develop me, so I can be on television. Where bitches constantly telling me that I look like Billy Lee. I make fly rhymes to get my name on the scene. Then when I'm on the scene, I do shows to get the green. Then I take the green by an automobile machine to get that thing on page 43 in Jet magazine. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. With my vocab. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. With my vocab. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. With my vocab. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. With my vocab. Listen when I speak it, keep it. With 1200 techniques I freak it. I be like a missile when I heat seek it. A superhero like Thor. I make my entrance through your floor, then make my exit through your door. I flip like David Banner with my star spangled. You get entangled, you're talking that shit, your style is anal. Perseverance, time to take off, I got clearance. I snatch your whole shit while my niggas run interference. I bounce to the galaxy looking for Earth on other planets. Cause I react like live drum beats when I slam it. So open the corridor, hit the floor, empty the store. See I be blowing spots when I throw my 44 microphone. My genetic codes can't be cloned. See I can prolong it if female gossip on the phone. I'm abstract when I make my verbal contact. I get you heated like you see your mom get slapped. Being real comes first and everything else is secondary. My vocab will slap you in your face like a dictionary. Cause I got knowledge. The hell with your $100,000 college. I have kings paying me homage for dropping mathematics. You calculus the statics. Damn right it's dramatic. I be that microphone fanatic. For vocal tracks that are clear like crystal. Concealed like a pistol. And suck like a nip out. I be making niggas mad. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. With my vocab. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. Mad with my vocab. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. Mad with my vocab. Prepare for the worst. My second verse is face of death. Me without lyrics is like a porn flick without sex. Illmatic. My lyrical skills are Jurassic. With more flavor than Skittles when I digitally mastered. I go off like a cannon. Blow up the planet with no fear. Like them clothes white boys be wearing. Tougher than denim. Lethal like venomous snake bites. The marijuana makes my eyes bright red like brake lights. There's not a party I couldn't rock. Believe that. There ain't a microphone brave enough to give me feedback. I'm strong. My word is born like James. Niggas be trying to test but they weak like 7 days. MCs run away when I kick it. They act so chicken that they should come with a launch drink and a biscuit. My style is radioactive, massive, atomic. Yo, I plan to push the earth in front of Haley's Comet. Breaking the facts of life down like Tuki. I'm more like sushi with more vocab than 3 fucking Fugees. So recognize or be hospitalized. Cause lyrically on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a dime. I be making niggas mad. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. I be making niggas mad. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. I be making niggas mad. I be making niggas mad with my vocab. I be making niggas mad. I be making niggas mad with my vocab.
Never seen an angel, virgin bitches with halos, but my secular metaphysical theology is fatal. Cause me with the mic cable is a religious experience in itself. I got a message from God. He said don't even try to fuck with me. Suckers reluctantly carry the cross and uppercuts at Nazareth. I'm hazardous. I speak to the heads and raise the dead like Lazarus. Led the fucking lambs to the slaughter and walked on water when exposed. In the ground of thorns, I'm on point like the unicorn and cuneiform. The brain rains a desert storm for 40 days and 39 nights. So my cerebral flows flood the earth with a megahertz. And the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Reciting a biblical verse before I make your melon burst. Like they think of jewels on Pulp Fiction. My salvation is salivation, and diction crucifixion. It's a blessing just to live another day, they say, cause the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. So my niggas pray 5 times a day and still carry a tray 5 seconds. On the planet Earth, it was my place of birth. Wanna be the sole controller of the universe. Look into the Lord and you guys in Christ. Getting set on earth. as it is in heaven. Feeling like a prop, cause I be talking to a burning bush. But I'm not knowing till I fornicated with the hoe and caught the clap. So my first communion consists of bread and wine and doxycycline 100 milligram tablets. Let the commandments begin again. Cause just like Moses on Mount Sinai, I broke all 10. Call it even the thieves in the Eden when I covered my neighbor's wife. I do dirt and good works to breathe life into mics. And give us this day to make our daily bread. Cause if I'm broke, I'm serving caviar and Bethlehem. Or selling my soul to Satan. 6-figure record deal temptations, my religious denominations BC. I be the coming like with Mary's water broke. So let there be light, so niggas can see I rock mics religious. Those who believe ye shall receive, but not believers, you niggas doubt my existence like agnostics. The hostile gospel, I apostle each epistle from speaking in tongues. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son to set it on this. Blowing vastly fast as the kingdom come. Ain't knowing the Judas in my crew. So do unto others before they do unto you. Like Rasta's heads be dreading, phonetic Armageddon. On earth, as it is in heaven. Oh, it was my place of birth. Wanna be the sole controller of the universe.
Get there with the Lord and should die for Christ.
Hitting 7 on earth as it is in heaven.
Killing everybody in sight.
Hitting 7 on earth as it is in heaven. I hit the planet like a plague. The book of Revelation's red dragon with 10 horns and 7 heads and 7 crowns. Skills concealed until the 7 seals revealed to fulfill prophecy. From BC to ACDC radio receivers, the Messiah comes back in 19 in the fever and the rap world ends. The hereafter is after. You hear the hemisphere Trinity raps rap to your Babylon vine. And thou shalt not worship false idols. Just like David Guillotine Philistines, even God is homicide. Fucking these kids like Catholic priests after mass. Pubic hair of lamb's wool and fiend of bird brass that I can put up in your platinum ass, son. It's better riding for the chat. Every knee so bad when the divine style is speaking in terrible. Like old Baptist churches, I'm getting no bitches hysterical. Hallelujah! Praise be to my medulla oblongata, not another nigga hotter. Believe that me, Shaq, your hip-hop martyr who sacrificed and gave my life. But God for pop, so I'm living a thug life in the afterlife. And I'll be walking through the pearly gates with the infrared scope 10mm heat. Cause if my name ain't in the book of life, I'm snuffing St. Peter. Drinking the blood of Jesus Christ and pissing holy water, no question who can come clean. MPC plus MIC equals holy B-I-B-L-E to me. Matrimony is getting head, but I refuse to break bread with Jezebel. My management already gets 20%, so fuck tithing. Go to hell, I'd rather continue backsliding. You're not from the tribe of Judah, so why you lying? From watch the Zion, I'm sick to find the next shit, to wreck shit and see the Exodus. Amen. It was my place of birth, wanna be the sole controller of the universe.
Get there with the Lord and should die for Christ.
Hitting 7 on earth as it is in heaven.
Look, none of them are coming in. None of them are coming in. Nobody's coming in. Go ahead.
This Neuro guy is, I think he's partners with the Machine Lies. You were on their show a while back, like 2 years ago, I think. Yeah. So he just wanted to come in. He's not trying to debate. So literally none of them want the smoke. And I said that. I said that at the beginning. I said, none of you guys are going to come in.
Yeah. Dude, there's a lot of dudes in here and nobody's coming in. I posted.
No one wants to step. They're all just telling you to go debate Jay, which is like.
Dude, he's blocked me, bro. I've already addressed that. He's blocked me on his social media. All right. Well, I'm gonna continue my. I'm not coming in. Just wanted to join the Discord to learn. No, dude. If you want to join the Discord, you're going to pay me money, dude. I don't give free education to guys on the internet. I've already learned that lesson a long time ago. Nothing like
you did it for 20 years.
Yeah, well, I didn't do it for 20 years. I did it for about 10 years.
16.
I did YouTube. I started my YouTube in 2015, and then I stopped doing free education like in 2014. So I did it for free for 9 years, which is a long time. But yeah, none of these dudes are coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, we've even got Redeemed Zoomer in chat tonight, and he won't come in either. And again, this is free access to what I'm saying. All right, I'm gonna continue. We got the intermission. Go ahead.
I will say also, I received a lot of free education from you.
Yeah.
Long time ago. So
yeah.
So it was free at one time.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work and
yeah,
a lot of research, a lot of hours. What, 28 books now?
Yeah, 28 books, and then I got 3 good essays. Go to my platform website here. Let's go southernprotestant.com. You can see all my works here. I got my classic documentary, Occupied by Rome, which deals with all the neo-Nazi horse shit. And then I got 28 books, and then my last 3 works are on the Law of Moses, refuting Sherman Isbell. I got my Dragons and Dinosaurs essay for free. All these last 3 are for free. And then I got my Christmas essay showing that the Christmas celebration is a pagan observation from the Roman feast of Saturnalia and the Nordic myths as well. And by the way, my position is mainstream American culture. You guys know why Thanksgiving was established by William Bradford? William Bradford established the holiday, the feast of Thanksgiving, to replace Christmas, because Christmas was considered a papal and pagan holiday that was to be rejected by Protestants. This is how
Drake,
this is how far Drake, you people go ahead.
We do it to God.
That's so stupid. All right, I'm gonna do a commentary on the Piers Morgan thing now. I've given intermission, given everyone a chance to come in. Nobody wants to smoke tonight. I wonder why the EO boys don't. Even Redeem Zoomer doesn't want to smoke tonight, because I got too many facts, man. I know too much, and they don't want it. I am not a Nestorian Christian. I am a Nazarene Jew. Nazarene Jew. Watch my video, the Ray Fisk, the scholarly monograph on the original apostles of Jesus Christ. They taught exactly what I teach on this platform. Get wrecked and bent. All right, and so we're now going to deal with the Piers Morgan interview, and I'm going to start at 21 minutes. Please, everyone who's in Discord, mute, and we will continue. The guys in the chat, many of them are there, and none of them have the balls to get the smoke. So we're gonna do the Piers Morgan interview.
Problem is that the church for many years helped. I mean, the Treaty of Westphalia, the nation state as a unit where man can get the best control. Remember, the core teaching of politics, Piers, is subsidiarity. You try to push it down to its basic level, right, to the community level, the town council level. We figure that the nation state from the Treaty of Westphalia forward is the best way to kind of govern ourselves and still allow the common man to have some say-so.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we have a traditional Roman Catholic named Steve Bannon promoting our Protestant Treaty of Westphalia. Now, you know, it's moments like these. I know why the Jesuits are doing what they're doing. The only thing that I can think what Steve Bannon is doing here is one of 2 things. Number one, he's either a complete dipshit who knows nothing about history, which is why his Jesuit counterparts have taken over the Catholic Church, have not subverted it because they've always been Catholics. You can't be subverted by your own people. Number 2, he's probably doing this, promoting the Treaty of Westphalia, because traditional Catholics know the Jesuits took over their church. Which, if you watch Timothy Gordon, you read Taylor Marshall, listen to Taylor Marshall, traditional Roman Catholic apologists know the Jesuits are a threat. They know they're doing something radically different. They won't tell you what they're doing. Oh, the Southern Israelite will tell you what they're doing. But these Roman Catholic apologists aren't going to tell you what they're doing. They're operating off of Joachim's prophecy. They're being consistent Catholics. And these traditional Catholics, they want traditional Western liberalism in order to protect themselves. They don't want any kind of centralized authoritarian movement rising up, even Roman Catholic rising up in the West. Why? Because they know the Jesuits are going to persecute them. That would be the most charitable interpretation I could give. I mean, you understand the Treaty of Westphalia, ladies and gentlemen, that was the treaty that came out of the 30 Years' War, where we Protestants gave the ass whooping of world history to the Roman Catholic Church, led by our, again, famous general, Gustavus Adolphus, that great Northern European general who absolutely humiliated the Roman Catholic Church. And the idea that Steve Bannon would be promoting the Treaty of Westphalia. I promote the Treaty of Westphalia. The Treaty of Westphalia is a Protestant movement. It is the Protestant whole milk nationalist movement that broke the Universalist Holy Roman Empire. How the effing hell can this guy promote the Treaty of Westphalia? He's either a dumbass or he's just trying to promote libertarianism to protect his traditional Catholic brethren. That's the only way I can interpret what he was saying. That was absolutely insane. I mean, honestly, that's like the a Protestant championing the Council of Trent. Like, what? What was he just doing there? That was bizarre. All right, let's go to 31. Oh, sorry, at 31:36. Oh, we got an ad here. Sorry, man. I have to suffer this on YouTube. All right, we'll skip that ad, and then we'll go to the perfunctory.
Points on this. On this.
Let me back up just a little bit here. We'll go to 31:32. Come on, baby. Come on. What's going on?
It's the attempt to make it more progressive.
Yeah, but the problem is, and when Bannon was on earlier, he made some great points on this issue. But the problem is that
you see what he's doing, what Jay's doing. He's making common cause with Steve Bannon. Oh, gee, I wonder why. Wonder why Jay would be making common cause with Steve Bannon. I just showed you. Who are his paymasters? Who are Jay's paymasters? Well, the same paymasters as Alex Jones. Who are the paymasters of Alex Jones? I just showed you. Pat Buchanan, Alexander Haig, Tom Braden, Steve Bannon, Eric Prince, William Regnery, the General Maylou of the Council of National Policy, John Birch Society. This is who he's getting paid by. Sorry.
That you've already dogmatized the documents of Vatican II in the Roman Catholic system. So there is no way to go back to a pre-Vatican II church or to create some new reform movement. There's multiple statements from the Vatican itself, particularly Francis, more recent in 2017, even said that the reforms of Vatican II are irreversible and magisterial. So there is no way to go back to some pre-Vatican II church. It's just a fiction that a lot of traditional Catholics tell themselves. And of course, I'm a big fan of Francis because he is a great apologist for Orthodox Christianity. We've had more people convert to Orthodoxy under Francis than ever before. So he's sending them our way. And I don't think you're going to get anybody better than Francis since he appointed 108 of the 135 cardinals. They're all going to be Francis 2.0.
Yeah, I agree with the last thing that Jay said, but you see what he just did. Jay knew the reason why Jay left the Catholic Church is he saw the liberalism. Jay doesn't believe in Eastern Orthodoxy, but he's promoting Eastern Orthodoxy because he saw that was going to be the future big Christian movement in America, and he would make money from it. And sadly, he was right. And again, we already know that Jay doesn't believe in Eastern Orthodoxy. Now let's go to the 36-minute mark. I'm at 35:56. Just
call him a liberal is to not understand Pope Francis. Pope Francis is a Jesuit. Nobody wants to talk about that.
That's right.
And nobody really knows what a Jesuit is thinking. But believe me, this man's far from liberal. And
yeah, you see that. The Anglican priest is admitting the infamous role the Jesuits play in the world. And nobody knows what the Jesuits are thinking. A few of us do. They're Anglican priest. What the Jesuits are thinking is Joachim. They're thinking Teilhard. That's what they're thinking. And now Jay's going to come in, strangely enough, Jay's going to come in to protect the Jesuits. Let's go to the 45-minute mark. 45. I'm going to go at 44:49.
Thanking me, have chosen one side and one piece of what Christ taught and neglected the rest of what he taught, which is boundaries, which is tradition, which is what the church handed down. I mean, the Roman Catholic Church itself has always forbidden this, and the fact that Francis was exploring it literally proves Francis's revolutionary ethos. I mean, the Anglican guy next to me said that Francis wasn't a liberal, and then he literally lists all the liberal policies that show he was a liberal. The fact that he's a Jesuit has nothing to do with whether he's liberal or not. It proves the point that, yeah, Francis is a revolutionary. And
the idea that Jay would say that what he's a Jesuit has nothing to do with him being a liberal. Again, we know Jay's lying here. Jay knows that the Jesuits have been at the forefront of the liberalization of the Catholic Church from John Courtney Murray and his work with the doctrinal warfare campaign with the CIA. And Jay's talked about this 100 times. Jay lies to protect his paymasters. And this is dark stuff, folks. And you know what's more dark about this? Again, I've already shown the connections that Jay has with Alex Jones and with Nick Fuentes, and a sponsor of mine who sponsored this video. I won't mention his name because he asked me not to. Nick Fuentes is going to be a part of Kanye West's recent album. Yeah. Nick Fuentes, this is Academics TV. Nick Fuentes will be featured on the new Ye album. This is from Kanye West. I changed my album name to Cuck. And look at the image of his new album, Kanye West.
Yeah, by the way, this album that's named Cuck, he's actually in a video. Let me see if I can find this. There's recently this video with Just Tree, where she's talking about how they have a video where he's talking to Nick Fuentes and Sneeko, right? Which is weird because Sneak and Glow is supposed to be a Muslim, right? But he's on a video with Kanye West, right? And he's talking about how much he likes to be cucked, right? How much cucking is a refreshing change up, right? And that it gives him a rush, right? So he's talking about the you know, how much he likes to be cucked, right? So these are the kind of guys that Jay Dyer and Nick Fuentes, you know, obviously they've been on Alex Jones with Kanye West, right? And they're promoting this type of trash, right? But yeah, this is the video I'm talking about here, you know, where they have a video of them admitting that they like to be cucked, which is very strange, right? Meaning they're like in some type of swinger Coomer cult in Hollywood, right?
Told him like, yeah, I would like that. This makes me happy. And Sneeko is eager to please. Now we get to the best part of the video. And as you can see with the tweet right here, Kanye West started bonding with Sneeko about being cucked, then rushed to turn off the camera when he realized they were still streaming. Now, I cannot play this particular clip because the sound is scuffed. It's really bad. I have to remaster it. And I had to get a lot of the curse words out because after this clip, I'm going to show you the clip where Kanye West is just going crazy. He's going ham. But this is the clip where he actually says he's gay. So let's play this clip, the edited version. And I did a lot of work on it. Okay, so I got my watermark on there. So let's listen to that. And then we'll listen to the last video clip where Kanye is just going crazy, like he's off his meds, and he actually admits that he's gay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it play all the way through first, and then I'm going to rewind it, and then I'm going to stop and point some things out to you.
I definitely am more like Stag Vixen and you know, you guys know this term? Yeah. It's more like swap. It's kind of like you like same. Yeah. People call us cucks, and now you cucks. I'll get cucked just for like to switch it up. But for the rush, you know. Yeah, it's like kind of rush. Like be on the outside of the doors. Car racing. Yeah. Okay, so did y'all figure out what y'all?
Yeah, I'm waiting for Jam to come back. He has all like the timestamps and stuff. Yeah, we're gonna put it together. And he had the movie up, just watching it, but I think I gotta take time to read, study it, and know exactly what's going on, so I can forget.
Are we streaming or not?
Yeah.
We're streaming?
Yeah.
Oh, we're live? Turn it on. Audio on or off? No, the audio's off. The audio's off? It's off.
I don't know if you guys saw, but that was Nick Fuentes sitting there behind Sneeko, right? So they're all talking about how much they like getting cucked with Kanye West over there, right? And then he finds out that they're streaming, and then it looks like somebody got up and turned off the laptop, right?
Okay, so let's rewind that so you all can know what's happening here. All right, so you got Nick friend. I keep calling Nick Fritos, so it's like second nature to call him Nick Fritos. But you got Nick Fuentes here. You got Sneeko, who's clearly uncomfortable knowing that he's being streamed. Please know that Sneeko knew that he was being streamed. There's no way Sneeko didn't know. He knew. He was just trying to play it off, because I believe that Kanye was just talking sexual throughout the stream and they thought that it was off, but Sneeko knew it was on. It's his equipment. This is Sneeko's equipment. Of course he knows it's streaming. So let's go ahead and watch that for a second.
I definitely am more like Stag Gibson and
I don't know what the Sag Gibson stuff is, okay? And I don't know what twa is. If anybody knows, if anybody can relate what that is, please educate me in the comments section, including twa.
And they're talking about having a threesome, right? Like menage a trois, right? So they're talking about twa. That's what I believe they're talking about. I could be wrong. I'm not caught up on the slang. I definitely am not. Part of the swinger lifestyle. I'm happily married, for a few years now. I mean, so I don't know what type of tip these people are on, right? But definitely indications of a Coomer cult, a Hollywood Coomer cult that they're being inducted into here, right? With these kind of YouTube influencers or Rumble influencers like Sneak and Glow and Nick Fuentes getting embroiled with the high up celebrities, right? Yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Jay Diarrhea knows what's up.
Wow. It's kind of like you like same. Yeah. People call us cucks, and now you cucks. I'll get cucked just for like to switch it up.
I get cooked because I like to switch it up. Yeah, guess what? Sneeko does too.
But for the rush, you know.
So did you hear Sneeko go for the rush, right? So Sneeko agrees with the cucking thing. He basically was getting all angry, was mad that we kept talking about it. But then in the end, he's like, yeah, I do enjoy watching my girlfriend get railed by another dude. It's a rush, dude. Like, he just agreed with Kanye West and saying, yeah, getting cucked, it's a rush. I can't describe it. It's a rush. Like, what? Wait a minute. That's not what you were saying when everybody was giving you a hard time about you getting cucked.
A rush. Like, be on the outside of the doors.
So Kanye also liked to listen in on his girlfriend or his wife. I don't know if they're legally married. Also getting railed by another guy. So he likes to get cucked that way too.
Car racing. Yeah.
I don't understand how car racing is involved in this, but okay.
Okay, so did y'all figure out?
By the way, did you notice that Nick Fuentes did not participate in this conversation? The only thing that Nick said was when
wait, car racing. They're looking outside. So I think that's when they're, I don't know, car racing. I understand. Maybe it's a situation like an orgy, right, where lots of people are fucking lots of people, right, and they're seeing who could fuck the fastest. I don't understand. Car racing? See, I'm thinking about like swingers type of shit. This is some nasty shit. You know, definitely some weird shit going on in those corners. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Definitely some weird shit going on there.
Sneeko said for the rush, Nick laughed at like, ha, the rush. Like, you guys are clowns. And I'm not, hey, I'm not a fan of no damn Nick Fuentes.
That's enough of that. But yeah, then they had a situation where they caught Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes with I believe it was tranny porn on their phone. Right. So that's another instance where they actually had T porn on their show. I mean, prawn. Right. I guess you're not allowed to say prawn, right? But they had T prawn. Right. So we'll correct the record. I don't know if that's beyond the terminologies of service, so I apologize, but I don't know. Let's go to this. Go back to this.
He's a black.
I'm trying to record this conversation with Neurojack, but yeah, he almost laced up a lot of stuff about Jay Dyer in this presentation. Really,
KKK guy, looking like he's sexually groping a KKK white dude. Was this whole thing with Kanye West, with Alex Jones bringing on Kanye West, was this a way to humiliate the whole milk movement rising up in the United States? And Jay and his boys fell for it. They fell for it. And I could get into some real nasty stuff that Kanye West has said on this matter, but I can't because I'm on YouTube. I'm done with my presentation now. The mic is open. I will again give an invite to my chat if anyone wants to come in and challenge the presentation tonight. The invite is right there. We've already had one guy come in. Most everyone else has run like chicken shits. But we will now chew the fat, ladies and gentlemen. I am done with my presentation.
There's this.
Go ahead.
There's this Meon Journal account in YouTube chat, some kind of sock account, I'm guessing. Came in here talking about like and subscribe for a $500 coupon to Kmart, and then now they've switched tactics to saying you won't debate that.
Did Redeem Zoomer saying which voice chat? The live stream general, bro. Live stream general.
Oh,
if you come in, dude, if you come in, I will know exactly when you come in, and I'll give you roles. We'll be happy. I am a Presbyterian, guys. I got rid of all the Neoplatonic Calvinism. I believe in infant baptism, church government. I am a Presbyterian. I'm following the work of Ruach John Rushdoony. And I became a Nazarene Jew from reading his works. And I mean, everyone knows that's my background. A lot of guys want to cope and say that I'm some fed, and I just came up with them. I did not. I was a Presbyterian seminary student down in South Carolina. I started reading Ruach John Rushdoony. I started getting into the influences of Neoplatonism on the church from Ruach John Rushdoony, who wrote a whole book on the matter. And I ended up leaving traditional Christianity. My session called Ruach John Rushdoony a lunatic, which made me want to read his books even more, which I did. And I became a Nazarene Jew, a scholar for Nazarene Judaism from the works of Ruach John Rushdoony, which you probably know of. So
I think.
Go ahead.
I think this is just I think this is just a tactic. I think he's saying that he clicked the link and that you're not allowing him in so that he can save some face here.
Well, everyone can see from my live stream. We've got no invitations. You see when someone comes in, glad you're here, Nero Jack. You can come in immediately. My vetting questions. We've got no Redeem Zoomer here. Vetting answers. No Redeem Zoomer here. He did not come in. He may be trying to protect himself. I don't know. But Redeem Zoomer, if you come in, we will have a cordial conversation. I have had many debates, and I only get nasty when people get nasty with me. Okay? So we will gladly invite you in. Anyone who's in the live stream general, y'all can unmute, and we got open mic here, so we can chew the fat. So anyone wants to make any comments or questions on the presentation, you are willing to do so.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, what's up?
Just on the last point about the Jesuits, one thing that shows how totalitarian they are is the Guaranis, the reductions, because I pasted something from the biography I was reading of Pope Francis a while ago, but it goes more into detail. And even the papists themselves, they admit that they were running a communist, totalitarian regime in these reductions. And then they would tell the natives that the black pope, the general, was higher in authority than the Pope himself. So it's like a completely totalitarian and communistic setup. And so the Anglican guy was absolutely right. And Pope Francis here even says that, he really took a liking to, he took a lot of lessons from the reductions themselves. So it might have not been the most conservative in theology, but certainly it's not shy from totalitarianism.
Yeah, absolutely agree. He's the Anglican priest. I mean, the Anglicans know all about the Jesuits. We the English people had to deal with the Jesuits for many centuries, and he was just reciting just basic history of the English Church. And the disgusting thing is Jay came in to protect the Jesuits there at the end of that interview, acting like the Jesuits have nothing to do with liberalism. I could probably just do a Google search of just all the lectures that Jay has given on the John Courtney Murray and the Anglo-American establishment and the doctrinal warfare campaign that John Courtney Murray was a part of. And he was the leader. And Jay will tell you in his videos that John Courtney Murray, a Jesuit priest, was the leader of liberalizing Western Christianity. And then he's going to act like the Jesuits have nothing to do with modern liberalism. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The level of lying and grift this man will go to. All right. I mean, I've put the invite in stream again. No one's coming in. No.
Shout out to Machine Lies. He just cited Teilhard de Jardin.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. If you want to know the system that we're living in, it comes from Teilhard de Jardin. You read his book, Phenomenon of Man. That is the blueprint of the modern world. That's what we're living in. So. If no one else has anything to say, I guess we're going to shut her down here.
Hello, Jack. If you have time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I have a couple just questions. Like, I mean, I mostly agree with what you're saying from your perspective and stuff, so I don't have much to say on the Dyer thing. But just out of curiosity, you said the Knights of Malta are basically running things. Who do you think? What do you think that the Masons and the Jews have any role in that, or is that just kind of like a smokescreen or something like that?
I think the Freemasons ran things in America probably up until the time of the Civil Rights era. I think the Masons have had an enormous influence in in Great Britain as well. But once, as I've shown from a video I made a long time ago, I've taken it off the internet now. But you look at Benjamin Franklin and his observations concerning what was that essay? Hold on, what was that? Benjamin Franklin observations. What was that? Yeah, observations concerning the increase of mankind, 1751. You read Thomas Jefferson, who was also, Benjamin Franklin was a Freemason. Thomas Jefferson was a high-ranking French Freemason. You read his notes on the state of Virginia. You read about Albert Pike, one of the most powerful Freemasons in the history of America. They were all hardcore whole milkists. You know what that word means, right? When I say whole milkist?
No, I don't.
Okay, it's
they favored the European people.
Yeah. I don't want to say the words because we're on YouTube.
I get it. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, and so and see, that's kind of where I've been coming at this from for a long period of time. So I mean, I kind of agree with those general things. Obviously, I think the alt-right was a giant psyop against those kind of belief systems, right?
Hold on, Nero. Let me finish what I was going to say. The point that I'm making is from Benjamin Franklin, from Thomas Jefferson, from Albert Pike. You look at the historic, the reason why there's a Prince Hall chapter of Freemasonry is because white Freemasons never accepted people of other ethnicities. Never, ever. The fact that we had a civil rights movement in the 1964 and 1965, now that we have racial egalitarianism, proves that Freemasons cannot be in control. Cannot. No way. If Freemasons were in control, Freemasons were always, and the Darwinist system was always for white supremacy. If Freemasons were in control, we would have a white supremacist system, and we do not. Now, we do know one religion, and it's the only religion that teaches this, of universal ethnic love, and that's the Christian religion. It's specifically the Roman Catholic version of Christianity. That is the only religion that could be in control in a racial egalitarian world. And not only do we have that when it comes to doctrine, we have the names, places, and faces of the men who created our modern system of racial egalitarianism. It was the Kennedy family. It was John F. Kennedy. If you watch my documentary, Occupied by Rome, I got all the receipts for you. John F. Kennedy, Teddy Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, they were the leading voices behind the civil rights movement and the later, this 1965 Immigration Act. Come on.
No, I understand the argument. No, I understand your argument. It makes sense in a lot of ways. Let me take it back to about the Norman conquest of England, for example.
Oh, that's way back. Okay. All right.
So looking at it from that point of view, you know, I know there's a lot between the birth of Christ and up to that point. So you don't believe in Jesus, am I correct about that, or you think that he's
No, I believe
he is the Messiah.
I believe that Jesus was the Messiah. I believe that he was the prophesied Messiah of the Old Testament prophets. But what we do not believe here is that he was co-eternal with the Father. We would hold it's exactly the position. If you watch my video on Ray Fisk, who lays out, it's the official monograph of the early Nazarene Jews. I hold the exact position they held, which is that Jesus was kind of a seraphim kind of character before he became a man. He was. You can use the word created. I understand the distinctions that some of the early church fathers made between something created and something begotten.
I'm not going to nitpick you over those things for sure. Yeah, I'm not going to. I understand. Yeah.
All right.
So I just wanted to get a general concept. So here's my question then. You don't see yourself. So there's a distinction between Hebrews, Jews, and Israelites. Am I correct in saying that?
No, I would say that when we're talking ethnically, I am of Saxon lineage. My ancestors come from ancient England and Germany and Northern German. I've had my DNA test done. I've published them in my book on the South. My DNA tests. I am a Saxon. I am for a traditional, Saxon nationalism, some kind of white Northern European kind of nationalism that holds to but has rejected our ancestors' pagan religions, has adopted a biblical religion. All I'm doing is I am perfecting the Protestant Reformation of my ancestors in England and in the northern European regions. The Christian religion has failed us completely. It's failed, and because of all this metaphysics, and I'm trying to get rid of that. That's what I'm doing.
I can agree with most of what you're saying for sure. I think the only thing I'm trying to get at is that so like Eastern Orthodoxy, you think that that's basically Catholicism under a different name?
I think Eastern Orthodoxy is a more pure version of the Antichrist religion of the early church fathers and even the Roman Catholic religion. I think the Eastern Orthodox religion is inconsistent in its rejection of the Pope. I think their metaphysics lead to popery. That's what if you read Pseudo Dionysius by Paul Roram, it's a Harvard classic. He goes through all the historical background of this, that the Dionysian metaphysics necessitated the Roman papacy, and the Eastern Orthodox Church accepts Dionysius the Areopagite, who's now called a Pseudo Dionysius, that his metaphysics necessitate the papacy. But the Latin Roman Church read too much of the Bible. They took the Bible a little too seriously. They tried to synchronize the Bible in with Greek metaphysics. The Eastern Orthodox Church is more or less pure Greek metaphysics. I mean, not even considering the Bible at all.
I can understand your perspective on that. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because it'll be kind of why I'm asking the question that I'm asking, right? So because there's a long time between I would say I go all the way back to like Homer and stuff like that, but I'm gonna leave all that aside for now, right? But starting around 1100, like with the invasion of the Norman conquest, right?
Yeah.
From what I understand, William the First basically, and so you can look at Charlemagne, but let's just start at William the First, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was basically financed by Jews. I'll just say it that way, right? So, would you say that there's any problem with that, or that Kabbalistic metaphysics or magical systems or way of thinking was kind of integral to the Protestant Reformation, and you don't see that as you see that as a potential problem at all?
No.
And I'm not saying this against you or anything.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get your perspective on it.
No, I've heard these notions before. I've read thousands of pages of John Calvin, Samuel Rutherford, John Owen. They didn't apply any of those principles to their theology. Those were the leading theologians of the Protestant Reformation, and I would say the Protestants were. They were very concerned about what the Bible taught, but they did not know philosophy, and because they did not know philosophy very well, they fell prey to a lot of the Neoplatonic doctrines that had come in from the Roman Catholic Church. I think they did an immense work of reforming the church, but they still fell prey to a lot of the philosophical doctrines of the Roman Catholic Church. As far as the Germanic and English people in general, and the relation it has with the Norman conquest, if you've read Gibbon, his Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, his History of the Western People, the Germanic people were actually not converted to Christianity immediately when it comes to the Bible. They were originally converted to Christ by an Arian bishop named Whotheyism. And there's also a lot of history behind a man named St. George in England, who was also an Arian. I would maintain that the Roman Catholic Church and the Normans usurped authority, not only in Germany but also in England regarding religion. I think that originally the Saxon, the Gothic, and Anglo-Saxon people originally believed in some kind of Aryan theology, and the Recared sold out to the Roman Catholics, which is a historical fact. Gibbon mentions it in his famous work. And the Normans enforced their version of Roman Catholicism onto England when they conquered my ancestors, the Anglo-Saxons.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I can definitely agree. I can definitely agree with you on that. Pretty much. I mean, to some degree, I can understand what you're getting at, because that's kind of what, like, I pretty much think that the European project died with Charlemagne, unfortunately, because he just got rid of any dissent. Essentially, like, from there forward, you can see that, like, there's no dissent allowed within European culture as far as
Charlemagne was an extremely imperialistic ruler, and he took great pleasure in slaughtering the Germanic people specifically. I hate that motherfucker. I hope he rots in hell. Yeah, go ahead.
A really good documentary for the whole Freemason thing. Veritas Equitas.
Oh yeah,
his documentary. Great documentary.
Well, I wanted to mention this really quick. So I just want to get to about the crux of my argument really quick. So I would argue that you could basically argue that well, when the Normans took over, for example, right? They had these the court people to kind of like use usury on the population and heavily tax that. So it's like an indirect tax, right? And obviously we can argue about how prevalent that is now to some degree, but obviously we'll get accused of anti-something or another, right? So my point is this: do you think that the Jays and the Catholics have like a symbiotic, parasitic relationship with the population, or is that more of like something to that effect?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely believe the Roman Catholics and the Jays have a symbiotic relationship. Yeah, and they are here to prey on the Anglo-Saxon Northern European people. Yeah, but I maintain that the Catholics are the one. The Catholics are the head, and the Jays are the tail. They are here. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So here's my other question, and I'll let other people talk, because I could go deep into this, but really quick, why do you think they're overplaying their hand and trying to get rid of white people so quickly? Like, what do you think that is about? Like, what do you think they're trying to do? Like what's the game plan in that? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I talked about this last week. John Coleman, in his book, I think it's the Committee of 300. I can't remember. It was years since I read this, but John Coleman talked about this. He was a CIA scholar. He said that the white people are too individualistic. They care too much about their rights, and people from other countries are more willing to submit to dictatorial governments. And if you look at what Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, what these guys believe in is what's called techno-feudalism. And if you just read what's his book, Huxley, his Brave New World.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. By the way, this is like where my main research is at right now, actually. So I agree with you. Sure.
The Brave New World. It's a dictatorial government. The new technocracies coming in are dictatorial governments, and white people are too concerned about their rights and their individual rights, and these Chinese
and other people's rights and stuff. Well, and passing that on to other people. We're like a virus that we pass it on to everybody else. Essentially.
Well, I mean, ultimately, who were the people that broke the Holy Roman Empire? They were white people. So that's the papacy believes that people of especially mixed race, that's what they really want. They want mixed race people, because mixed race people will have the IQ to perform in the technocracy, but they'll still have that older dictatorial caste submission that their ancestors held on. They'd be willing to go along with that more than purebred white people. I think that's correct. I think Coleman was correct on
Do
that
you,
analysis.
do you think that's why they're doing a Boxer Rebellion on the Western countries right now? You know what I'm talking about, right? Like
Boxer
the
Rebellion. I'm not familiar with that term.
Well, they basically shipped in a bunch of opiates into our countries and simultaneously put a bunch of foreigners in our country. I mean, so obviously it's like a dysgenics, displacement type of thing.
I'll have to study the Boxer Rebellion for me to cogently answer that question. I'm not
basically just means it's what the British did to the Chinese. It basically just means they just shipped in a bunch of drugs and made everybody.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, as long as there's less white people, that's whatever makes white people not breed with each other, and that's always a benefit to them.
So why do you? And this will be my last question, just because I want to give other people and let you finish up. But why do you think they're running this whole pro-white people thing with Twitter and Thiel and Musk and all this? Are they just doing that to psyop and track and trace everybody, or are they just trying to like control it because they know that there's going to be a backlash and they're just trying to get ahead of it?
I think Musk I know Musk is from South Africa, so I think he may have a emotional tie to the white cause, and he may be there. I talked about this in some videos a few weeks ago. There's been two lines of the Joachimite prophecy. One line has said that you get rid of text liturgy and hierarchy through like logos theology, but there was this other line that, through the Nazis and through the Darwinist eugenicists, that you get rid of text liturgy and hierarchy through white supremacy. I know that if you read, again, you go to my website, southernprotestant.com, go to the neo-Nazi guide, and my buddy Veritas Equitas, he's published this video called Freemasonry Demystified, and he goes through all the documentation on this. You have to, if you want to understand modern politics, you have to understand Joachim's prophecy. Absolutely, full blown. And Joachim's prophecy said that the second age Christianity had to die, and the new age, the third age of the monk, would arise, and he would abrogate text liturgy and hierarchy. But I got family coming back in now. I don't know if I can talk much longer, guys.
No, I appreciate it. That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Okay. I'll drop off.
My son just came in and he wants me to play with him. Oh, my DVD. Is anybody else got anything? Because I probably need to run. My son just came back in the room. He's gonna start a fit here. Is Waleed's in here? Waleed.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Oh, Waleed's in here. Okay, what's going on? What do you need, man? What's going on? What do you want to talk about?
Actually, I'm not here to so much debate the Quran or the Bible, because I don't think we'll see eye to eye. But I just wanted to make a comment of what you said about Jay Dyer.
Mm-hmm.
So you've identified that the majority of people, at least on your side of the camp, the Bible believers, whatever they call themselves, Catholic, Christian, Protestant, they don't actually believe the things that they're saying. They just do it for money.
Yeah.
And I've identified the exact same thing on my side of the camp. So if you go to my channel, The Way of Abraham, I've shown how Ali Dawa, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Ali Dawa. You've heard of him, right? Yeah, Ali Dawa. He doesn't actually believe the things he's saying. Neither does Muhammad Hijab. It's the same thing I've notified in all religions around the world. Every mainstream opinion, these people don't believe what they're saying. They're just pushing it for money.
Yeah,
it really isn't.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a dark part of the world, man. It's dark. We need a religious revolution. We do.
I agree.
Just like what happened 500 years ago, when Martin Luther and the great reformers realized that all the leading religious figures were just a bunch of sellout grifters. It's exactly what the Pope was doing. Pope Leo was doing during the time of Martin Luther, trying to sell indulgences to get people to fund St. Peter's Basilica. It's exactly what's going on now. It's just
that's why. That's why, like, despite strong disagreements, I've had sympathies with the Protestants, for your platform, because I call myself a Protestant Muslim. I am in protest to them. These Sunnis, they're just like Catholics. I just made a video recently exposing that. Like, I even showed how Ali Dawa, he said that he had a debate with MFG, a Quran alone guy, and he admitted in the debate, he said that because I've debated you, now I have confidence to debate Quran aloners. So he basically just admitted he's been running away from Quran aloners for the last like 5 years. So what about all the debunks and all the live streams where you're allegedly slam dunking on Quran aloners? You just said now you have the confidence to debate us. So what about all that stuff before? These guys don't believe what they're saying.
Yeah.
They don't, whatever tradition you come from, they're not following their book.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I know for a fact that the Muslim apologists aren't following the Quran. I've done plenty of reading of the Quran on my own, which I'm not a scholar of, never claimed to be. But you know, they're not teaching what the Quran teaches. But you know, look, man, it's brutal. We need massive religious revolution now with this massive, and everyone thinks it's about. We got to do some racial warfare and stuff. You know, you know, all the racial things, I think that stuff will fall out from the religious revolution. The main thing that needs to happen is a religious revolution. I
agree. The spirit has grown rotten, and people have deviated away from what originally made these traditions great. Whether you're coming from the Christian, biblical-esque tradition or the Quranic Muslim tradition, people have deviated away from what made these traditions great.
Yeah, I would maintain what happened 1,000 years ago with Thomas Aquinas and with Al-Ghazali and you know, these big metaphysicians. They turned people away from the holy texts to Neoplatonic metaphysics. That's what happened.
I agree.
It happened 1,000 years ago.
I agree, because the Quran, the Quran clearly teaches God is a physical, concrete being.
Yeah.
It says he has a throne. It says the angels are round about it, that they will bear his throne on the day. And I don't know why these people, even alleged Quran aloners, which you can consider like Protestants, they have a tough time accepting the idea that God is a physical, concrete being.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to say was I want to hear your thoughts on this. So obviously, the Christian biblical tradition has had a formal reformation. And you're carrying out that tradition to this day.
Yeah.
Now, you're not a scholar of Islam, but do you wonder, or have you ever had any thoughts on why Islam has not had a formal reformation in the same way Christianity has? So, like, and there is a very strong case to be made for Quran alone too, because the Quran holds itself complete. It says we are not to follow any hadith or narration outside of it. I'm wondering why Islam has not had a formal movement in the way the Bible has.
Well, I know that what happened, the reason why we had a big reformation in Europe was because the religious leaders took things too far. They wanted too much money from the people. They took it too far. Maybe, I'm not a scholar on the history of the Ottoman, Turkish, and Arab people. Maybe the religious leaders knew better than to take things too far and to extract too much money from people. That was the reason why it happened in Europe. Was when Martin Luther started his Reformation. It was because Pope Leo was just absolutely parasiting off the German people to build St. Peter's Basilica. No.
That's what they're doing now in the Islamic religion, the Sunni religion, the Shia religion. And I think right now Islam is at a turning point where Christianity was in. When did the Reformation start formally? 1519.
1519. It was 1519.
That was 1519. I think we're at that tipping point right now. We're witnessing the first fruits of a revolution here. But yeah, I just want to make that comment that I see that on my end as well.
Yeah.
It's all, I'm sure you'll find it in the Sikh religion, any religion that follows some sort of book, the Guru Granth Sahib. You just find these people, they don't care about what originally gave birth to their tradition in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like what Paul said, money is the root of all evil. And it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible what men will sell out their own bloodline for. Absolutely disgusting. All right, well, man, I have to minister to my family. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've been out here for almost 2 hours. I got to minister to my family. I hope everyone enjoyed the live stream tonight. It was visceral. Thank you for my sponsors for the video tonight. And we will continue next week at the same time. So
So there's Neurojack's conversation with Southern Israelite. And then here is this video, although I'm having problems playing it, so I don't know how this is gonna go. But I wanted to.
Did you say Neurojack was?
Yeah, Neurojack was talking to Southern Israelite. Pretty interesting convo that they had. And
Is that with or without the voice mask?
Well, no, he just went up there, but yeah, he was actually exposing Jay Dyer. So he's got another hour of that exposing Jay Dyer that I'm gonna play tomorrow. Right. So stay tuned for that, because that's a very interesting. I think I'll open my show with that. With the exposing Jay Dyer thing. The decline of Jordan Peterson fame, fraud, addiction, and delusion. That was a Davy Krakow video.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. Yeah, blessings.
View where, well, let's contrive the end. Let's just force the end of the structure. Let's take down governments. Let's get back to the land, bro. This kind of view. And it's very, it's parallel. It's not identical, but it's certainly parallel.
So just to say what apocalypse means, it means this overall view of history from like a heavenly perspective. The book of Daniel is
back. You got dinner
in a lot of ways. There's also different types of apocalyptic literature throughout the Old Testament. So that's what it means.
Gotcha.
Just to clear, I'm not just saying it doesn't mean end times and telling you why it's translated as revelation. Literally means to lift up a veil.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm going to play this little bullet point here, and we can comment. You can tell me to stop whenever.
This is followed, he says, by conscience after the fall, but before the flood. From the flood until the call of Abraham, what he calls civil government. This is followed by the patriarchal period, Genesis chapter 12 through Exodus 19, in which the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and so on, become the centerpiece of God's redemptive activity. With Moses, we have a new dispensation called law. It begins with the Ten Commandments, continues until the period of the church. The church is called the age of grace. We are living in the church age. It will continue to an indeterminate time in the future, at which point there will be what was called the rapture. The rapture removes the church from the world and gives birth to, then, finally, the kingdom. The kingdom is a millennial kingdom in which Christ is ruling in a political sort of way from Jerusalem over the peoples of the entire world.
All right, let's stop there. I just want to look at the picture. I mean, if he was trying to sell this, that is the worst picture to sell. If that guy was looking at me like that, trying to sell this to me, that picture on the right, I'm out of here.
Going on there.
Yeah, he's giving us, what did the kids call it? Yeah, a little pizzazz or whatever.
Yeah, like a shoulder drop,
He's like, honey, you have no idea what you're in for. Is there anything you want to comment on here? Because
they're like, this is the greatest presentation of like all time. He's literally playing Bruce Gore. I literally included hours of Bruce Gore presentations in a book that I wrote in 2022. Right, so we've looked at all these presentations, and they're now just like commenting on Darby's appearance, I guess. Right. So they're gonna have to step it up if they're gonna want to match anything, like the sort that we're used to. This is an extremely slow pace here.
Seems to be what we're saying is that, you divide into these sections, and then obviously each section you're going to look into some, you're going to assign some perverse interpretation anyway. So the question I have is, from a Orthodox view, let's say, are things divided at all similarly, and they're just misreading it, or you just don't do this at all?
We don't do this. I mean, sure, you can say innocence is part of the Genesis. That's part of how Satan tricks Adam and Eve. It's not that he, somehow tricked them into greed. Or
So did you hear that, folks? They don't do that at all. Right? So when apostate prophet is part of a church organization that actually does that, right? I mean, it would kind of be a sort of a problem, wouldn't it? Right? Because Orthodox aren't supposed to follow dispensationalism at all. But the guy, apostate prophet, is literally part of the Orthodox Church, and he's pushing dual covenant theology.
whatever, they were still very new. So he uses this innocence against him. I guess you could call it that. That's something.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask is because we're doing a critique from a specific view, and a lot of people watching me, a percent always say, "Well, you guys do that, or they do this." I just want to cover that in advance.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on that because back when I was a dispensationalist, the thing that got me out of it was beginning to look at the way that the New Testament treated the Old. And then I got into what's called covenant theology, which I think is way more biblical. And this is the idea that God relates to mankind historically through a series of covenants. And it's odd that, I mean, why wouldn't the dispensationalists want to use the thing that the Bible itself says is how we relate to God, which is a covenant relationship? And in those covenant relationships, the way there's kind of a similar pattern or structure to all biblical covenants. A lot of theologians have noted this over the years, whether Protestant or non-Protestant. But so basically, so to the comment, it's not exactly covenant theology, because what they're doing is they're saying that in these dispensations, the way that you're saved and the way that you have a relationship with God changes. It's different. And that's not covenant theology. Covenant theology says there's a unified pattern to these covenants. They're all essentially one covenant. Dispensationalists do not believe that it's all one covenant. In fact, many of them are dual covenant believers. They believe that there's a covenant for the Jews and this other covenant thing for Gentiles, which is totally different from all these previous covenants in the past with Noah or whoever. So it's a really janky, like whack type of anti-covenant theology. It's the very opposite of what Orthodox or even most Protestants would believe about the Old Testament covenant.
Yeah, so there are similarities with viewing it, with the covenantal theology, but they loathe each other, covenantalists and dispensationalists. As I said, like in the beginning, a dispensation is a prevailing type of order or rules or whatever. It's almost like imposed, but there's also no interaction, right? There's just things are playing out, which again plays into different types of Protestant strains of.
Well, I think I really like the title that Dr. Bruce Gore has for his presentation, which is that the apocalypse is in space and time. Right? So it's this idea of the temporal element. Usually when you focus on God, you focus on God's eternal will. Right? So how could God change? Right? And the ephemeral be brought into mix with the eternal. Right? That usually signifies a problem, okay, within the philosophical ideas. Right? So the way they change that, right? And the thing that they're trying to, I guess they're not really addressing is this notion of progress, right, in the Hegelian sense, right? And, as we talked about yesterday, right, and how the Logos theology, and of course, Southern Israelite accused them of trying to introduce Jesuit and Logos theology type of stuff into the Orthodox Church teachings, right? He actually said that Romanites and others actually say that that's not Orthodox theology, right? So there's also that aspect to this, right? And we'll look at that, more about that tomorrow with Southern Israelite, right? He had a very interesting presentation.
thought Protestants not big on free.
But we're looking at this before we look at Jim Bob and Andrew crying about being censored online for being called Nazis for colluding with Groypers. They obviously collude with the Groypers, right? And then what's more is that they have poisoned the well with this sort of fake theological debate, right, on what Orthodox theology is, right? And not only that, there's lots of other issues that are there to work out too.
Free will and stuff.
They're crying online about being censored and also declaring that it's okay not to schism with Zionists. So no need to schism if somebody in your church is a Zionist. Okay, even though they basically declared that Zionists support anathema insofar as they support the coming of the reign of the Antichrist. So why would you then befriend people who you say are supporting the Antichrist? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Right, so we're looking at their previous presentations to sniff around and see, well, they know exactly what they're doing because they've presented all of this stuff. Okay. I was commenting on this yesterday, Beck. He's got Depeche Mode, like sort of a goth band. And he's into a lot of goth musicians. He supports a lot of goth musicians. And the little Jay Dyer exposed piece, he's got that too. Right?
Is going to play into it. But you can't say it's like covenant theology. As far as back to our timeline as described here, they basically just pick an event that's important and then say, oh, this is like a carve out. This is a specific dispensation.
So 9/11 could very well be if Darby existed today, right?
Yeah.
The moon landing.
Joking.
Yeah.
Okay, that might be more joking, but 9/11 would definitely be one.
This whole thing is a joke. Like, what if they actually present it? The only person who's doing a presentation here is Bruce Gore. I don't know. Jay's been pretty silent down there. I hope he speaks up on something. But now they're going into making fun of truthers again. Yeah, I don't understand it.
Sure. But as far as these types of events, the problem isn't that you can't, just set about, okay, let's view this period here in this manner. The problem is that you carve it out, as I said. It sort of becomes like self-subsistent, like it has aseity. And the problem with that is, like throughout history, how do we define the Middle Ages? And usually we would say, from the fall of the Western Roman Empire, to either the fall of Constantinople or the discovery of America. That's the general timeline. But that does not mean that all of a sudden, like in strategy games, like advance a period, and now all of your soldiers turn from like Roman legionnaires to like knights and something. Things don't change that sharply. And but in dispensationalism, you do have these sharp edges, and they view it as separate things. And as Jay said, covenantalists do not.
Yeah, it's very romantic looking. It's like if you were to remove the Genesis and all these biblical references and just kept these bullet points, I wouldn't know if you're looking at the chapters of a comic book or a romance novel or something. Like it could be, it's almost like that's the impulse, is to sort of categorize it in this way that's more reduced so that people sort of experience it like they're in this storyline. Like what chapter are we in? Right, from that view, and that seems to be kind of a problem in itself, to assume that we
what But I can't even imagine what he's talking about at all. But yeah.
You have the knowledge of what chapter you're in, right? Jay, you're unmute, bro. Unmute, bro.
Every covenant that God makes with man, and by the way, you'll notice through the structure of covenants is that they begin with Adam, and then it moves to a family with Noah, and then it moves to a tribe with Abraham, and then it moves to a nation with Moses, and then it moves to the kingly covenant with David, and then we have the final covenant with the Messiah. So there's a logical structure to the movement of the covenants. There's no logical structure to this arbitrary ad hoc system. And furthermore, each covenant in the scriptures, even for example, Abrahamic covenant, it includes stipulations. So you'll have these sort of statements of the vassal to the covenant people. The stipulations are given, and there's also promises. So every covenant includes promises, grace, and stipulations or laws. Even with Moses, even with Abraham, if you look in 22, God makes the stipulation that you have to obey his statutes, his decrees, his commands. So they'll often try to say there's no law or stipulations in the Abrahamic covenant. But in Genesis 22, when God repeats it, there is law and stipulation. There's law and stipulation in the covenant with Adam, right? Be faithful, don't eat of that tree, etc. When Adam sinned, he broke essentially all the 10 commandments. And so they fundamentally misunderstand that there's always grace. There's always stipulation. Even the Mosaic covenant includes grace too. So that right there is a total destruction of the whole presupposition of covenant of dispensationalism.
That's interesting because it's not exactly the same, but it did remind me of like an Orthodox view of being saved, having been saved, and will be saved versus I got my trans stamp saved. It's like a similar error, but just not as a big magnitude, I guess, or how they're doing it here. You're saying that a lot of these titles or things would exist in all of these chapters in some way. So to divide them and assume they're non-existent previously is silly.
Yeah, it's literally a dud to blame just Protestants for this because the Catholics have, some order of theistic evolution as well with Teilhard de Chardin, as we mentioned, right? And obviously, the Orthodox have also been infiltrated to teach theistic evolution, right? And there's works that relate to that with, that Unseen shared with me that I have to go back and reference, right? But yeah.
So I don't know how my question.
Yeah, we're looking at his presentation here, so that we can assess where they're going from, where they're coming from in these things before we dismantle some of their views and opinions, and also look at the talk between Jim Bob and Andrew Wilson on their show that actually they took down, but we have the recording. In which they admit that it's okay to commune with Zionists. It's okay for them to commune with Zionists, to share communion with Zionists. Just fine in their opinion, even though they exposed all this stuff about dispensationalism and all this stuff, right? Supposedly. Right, and then finally, we have another presentation that we'll look at on dispensationalism by two gentlemen. Okay. And I got to go back and find out where. We're about 10 minutes into that presentation. On John Nelson Darby, where he looks at the ties with Rockefellers and others, right?
Question is, how did you get away with this? Is it because it was just an absence of church authority in Western modern culture of this time, relatively modern, that they just didn't catch it?
I would say there's kind of a long tradition already in the West, especially in England, of Protestant assumptions. So, from the time of Henry VIII and the Anglican Church, in the UK, you've already kind of got a few generations, a few centuries of these Protestant assumptions. And so these people are kind of like, oh, you know, look what we've discovered. And they're basing it on the fact that, you know, you already had probably, I think, a few Anglican ministers who were pretty famous prior to this who were premillennialists. So I think there was a few popular Anglican theologians before Darby and these guys who were premillennial. So they were probably working with some of that and saying, well, he's premillennial, but he's not consistent enough because he's not understanding that, you know, God's got these different plans. And then I think there's also a geopolitical motive, which we'll get to here in a moment.
Yeah. At the time, right?
I'd like to say that among the reformers, you had people who had outright hostility towards Mosaic law because they separated so much from, you know, we are saved by grace, and back then he was saved by works. Again, basic illiteracy in terms of understanding scripture. But I believe Luther said that he would punch
Moses.
Exactly. Yeah, because he demanded so much works. I don't know how that works with sola scriptura. You know, like Moses felt like putting all of these.
Well, I read a lot of Luther. I had a Luther phase. I read a lot of Luther, and what he says is that, well, what counts as scripture is what preaches the word of God. What preaches the word of God is what preaches the gospel of grace. So essentially, whatever Luther thinks is consistent.
So he wanted to punch Moses for abiding by works, like highlighting
for
works.
Demanding it.
Demanding it. Well, that's funny because that would be a work. That would be like a work to punch him. Like that would be a good deed in action from his view.
But even if he didn't see it as a good deed, he would have to punch God in the face.
Right? Yeah.
You know, like we make fun of people who are like, no pictures, no that, this or that. That's all idolatry. You know. Okay, I tell them, okay, go back to when they were building, you know, the tabernacle and the ark, or later on the temple, you know, and go tell Moses he's an idolater, and he'll tell you, but God told me to do this. Well, then God is an idolater because God doesn't preach iconoclasm or something like that. But these things are read retroactively into the Bible. It's the definition of eisegesis, which they you know, constantly complain about everyone else doing, and the dispensationalists specifically are so obsessed with saying that any different reading of the Bible requires like a film to be put over the Bible, like some interpretive schema has to be imposed. But this is the clear teaching of scriptures, and as Jay mentioned, like word of God. And I keep arguing with Protestants on Twitter. Word of God in the scriptures never refers to the scriptures.
Right.
It always means the second person of the Godhead, the word of God, Jesus. And especially to illustrate it, I mentioned the beginning of the book of Jeremiah. It says the word of God places his finger on my lips. It's not, unless it's some type of origami or like papyrus with words written on it in Hebrew. You know, no, it's a person. It's a guy. It's a guy when it's with Abraham, and he recognizes him physically with the two angels.
Oh, wait. Yeah, that's all you had to say, really. Let's play the video. Let's play the video. Here, hold on. I gotta scroll back up. Jessica's short Krakow video touching on Crucible. Okay, give me a second, folks. Yeah, I believe I remember this. What the hell? Oh, looks like I have to open it up on this fucking tab here. Okay, give me a second, folks. This is live truthering. And then we can play the Jordan Peterson one too if you guys want, because there's actually clips of Andrew Wilson defending Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you guys know about that.
Guys, David Crocco, welcome back to the channel. Going into work right now, wage slave. But last night, I'm just hanging out. I see a notification for a 3-hour stream. Or no, sorry. An 8-hour stream from a channel called The Crucible. And I'm going, are they still doing 8-hour streams about Jim Bob versus Owen Benjamin? Are they still milking this thing? Are they still doing the same thing where they called everybody in Owen's audience a cult member degenerate, but in the same breath saying, but we love you, cult. You know, we love your cult and your love. Are they still doing 8-hour streams about Jim Bob versus Owen Benjamin? Are they still milking this thing? Are they still doing the same thing where they called everybody in Owen's audience a cult member degenerate, but in the same breath saying, but we love you, cult. You know, we love your.
Yeah, that's right. That is what they're doing. Right? They're doing that with the Zionist Christians too. Right? Sort of calling them cults. Right? And then they, go back and forth, right?
Cult and your complete degeneracy, and you're willing to give money to retards. Please join us and give us your money.
Right. They're willing to work with the people and promote the people that they say are supporting the Antichrist. Right. Okay. And constantly milking and promoting their involvement with them. Right. So this is exactly, he's calling out back then what's exactly going on today, right?
Completely unethical pieces of shit.
Unethical.
But I just make a lighthearted joke with a super chat, meaning I supported it while giving it the criticism of how many more of these do you guys need to do? They proceed to get, out of pocket, profane, Andrew's bitch of a wife, Fox News contributor,
a Fox News contributor, folks. Jay Dyer, a Fox News contributor on Alex Jones. Right? How could you not label somebody like that a sellout? Right? What world do these people live in? It's really weird.
Comes in with her 2 cents to ban me. Typical bear stuff. She puts like a hatchet up with blood marks around it. Whatever the case may be. Complete meltdown on their part. I'll have all the screenshots from their Discord before they blocked me of things they were saying. All over a joke. So, things they couldn't handle. The super show from the Crucible, so I just used their thumbnail to have a little joke. They weren't too happy about that. So everybody over there, I don't care if you're a YouTube debooter and you know everything. You don't. I would wipe the floor with every single one of you. Would be easy because all you guys do is basically cherry pick content from people that have already done the legwork, like myself, like Milker Nation, like Hoax Wars, like anybody that's actually Johnny Arcade, like anybody that's actually did the work and have had personal experience with the guy. You guys just cherry pick that info, put it up as your own, and then take memberships from the same people you claim to hate. So y'all basically can all suck a dick. That's including your wife. So as far as that goes.
Wow.
What else did we have last night? Oh, Alex Stein.
Visit my Twitter page.
Alex Stein, his #1 stalker.
What's up, Machine?
Stalking Krako's Twitter. Okay, and now he's on that website, Uncensored America. Yeah, what's going on, Unseen? Blessings.
Oh, he's on Uncensored America. Oh.
Right. So they have these guys that are stalking Krako, right, on the Uncensored America, right, website, front page. Pretty crazy stuff there. Right?
Why would he be?
Let me see if I can get this. You'll see #2 on that list of who checks my profile the most. Alex Stein 99. We'll have a full stream and full quality, obviously, tonight. Just a quick word in the morning.
Also, Styx Hexenhammer, another guy that the Crucible collaborated with recently. But yeah, let's go to oh, look at this. There's a Jordan Peterson video on the front page. It says Jordan Peterson shows for U.S.-funded Israeli attacks Dark Triad delusion.
Oh, I
man.
made a Apostate Prophet band today.
Hey, what was that?
I said I made a Prostate Prophet, pretty angry today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. We got to get into that in a second.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get into that in a second, for sure. But this video lays out how they were part of the Groypers, right, that they're trying to distance themselves with, you know, and pretty interesting how it says here. And this is just the music that he liked. It's just, I hope I don't get popped for this. But yeah, he has some pretty, he has some funny music. So there's her, it says Rachel Mama Grizz. Rachie Mama Grizz. Mr. Singalong attacks the weasel. Okay, so this is a thing that she's telling people in Owen Benjamin's community to watch out for Krako. So they're saying that they're disrupting, that he's trolling the community or whatever.
This shit I'm doing is bigger than you. Do not interfere. I'm so far ahead of you niggas, it look like I'm not even here. Although my road is not even clear, I don't see no other option to steer. I'm going out as a legend, you know it. My envious enemies dropping a tear. You should know I get it pop.
So there it is. Hashtag Knicker Nation. Hashtag Bears. Hashtag Owen Comedy replying to Nick Fuentes. Knicker Nation, the Bears support you. So confirmed Bears and Groypers.
I do. Man, these hoes ain't never rocking with no lane. That's you, bitch. I'm married to this motherfucking game. It's true. If you really think you got me in your aim.
Then the video we got tomorrow, we got actually Jay Dyer with Alex Jones at the Unite the Right rally. And he gives a pretty passionate speech there. Right.
Let's go. This isn't love. No, sir. Although I appear to be grinning. You get in touch with my bad side. That's a bad ride. I'm severely diminished. Check out the trophies. I seriously did it. And you just like seriously winning. I'm kind of weird. I admit it. Bitch, I'm in the building, but I don't stay near any tenants. Late in my own. The label is cold. We raking in gold. I'm labeled to go. You borrowed my style and can't even pay off the loan. You phony. You fake. You a clone. I'm ape with the flow. You think you the greatest, but no. Put down the cocaine and Patron. I aim for your dome. Bow. I'm digging your grave. There's no other way it can go. Look, bro. bruh. It's too late. The beast has been woke to confront your ass and greet your kinfolk. I'm struggling to fight this evil impulse when I'm writing this shit down on the sheet. The pen smokes. I needed to bounce.
That's what you will. Wanted to pull up some articles that I came across.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for that. But yeah, you guys get the picture. But yeah, Unseen, go ahead, friend.
Hey, so what happened was,
see what had happened was,
I see what had happened was, okay, so he goes, anti-Zionist equals anti-Israel. Being against Israel means supporting a campaign that would result in the mass killing of Jays. That goes against the Christian Bible and against the traditional Christian view. And I said, being a Zionist means being against heresy. Being against Zionism means being against heresy. Stop acting like it isn't the case. Your chiastic interpretation of scripture that warps and distorts things is ridiculous. We shouldn't support them until they become orthodox. And I said, even at that point, we shouldn't support some idealistic antichrist war. Zionism is anathema, and you are anathema for supporting it. And he goes, cool, excommunicated by some random idiot who doesn't even understand the topic of political Zionism, right? And I said this to him. I said, you can move the goalposts all day.
Can we pull this up, or is
Yeah,
it,
I'll
is
send it to you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because it's good to see the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, no thing. I mean, yeah, it's no thing, Jessica Jane. Blessings. It's no thing but a chicken wing. You know what I mean? Blessings to you, my friend. And blessings to Peckbeck McKeck. Okay, the homie. Blessings to Browns boy. Okay, blessings to Golden Renaissance Productions. Blessings to Denise. Blessings to Televised Apocalypse. And Dr. D Head, thank you for being here, guys. I greatly appreciate all of you. And Burning Tongue, thank you for being here. J Diarrhea, Jake. And the homie Look Within, blessings. And Joe Mills, thank you for being here, sir. Appreciate you. Also, I think we had Powdered Dusty. Okay, I appreciate you guys. Okay, so let me open this up. Or wait, you didn't send it yet.
I sent it to you.
Oh wait, you mean on Discord?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go to the Discord and open this up. Let's see what the deal is here. So we read the original post that you sent him.
Right.
And then this is what he said in response. He said, cool, excommunicated by some random idiot who doesn't even understand the topic of Zionism. And then it does say the original post. It says, yeah, here's the original post. Being against Zionism means being against heresy. Zionism is anathema.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, he's just kind of pushing this stupid thing where it's like, and I kind of went to, St. John Chrysostom and went to those commentaries, and I found, something about, what he's saying and why it's so off. because he's making it out as if the branches are still, they're still branched. There's some, this dualistic thing we were talking about yesterday, where it's like a dual covenant or something. There is no dual covenant, and yeah, like St. John Chrysostom says that they were the branches of that holy root, but those branches were broken. I said your whole they are still beloved narrative is acting like we should support their genocide because God still loves them. Of course he loves them. That's why he wants them to become Orthodox. Anything else is a distortion. They are broken branches until they come back to Christ, until they come to Christ. Until that point, they are just like the Pharisees. In fact, they are a continuation of them, which is absolutely true, And someone was like, I don't understand why he isn't talking about the other side. And I assume that they're saying, why isn't he talking about the Zionists? And I said, it's because he's being paid to push divisive politics by the Zionists, And I put a photo of Bartholomew in a synagogue, and I said he's under Freemasonic ecumenists, so of course he thinks that it's acceptable, which is the case. Like if your hierarchs are pushing Zionists, and relations with the Jays, and as an Orthodox Christian, you think this is acceptable, and I'm almost like, I think that he's been put in place, because he has some type of following, and they've seen something, like, oh, we'll pay you to be, push Zionism to Orthodox Christians or something. That's what it seems like to me. But I mean, that's pretty obvious, I guess. But yeah, that's all.
Yeah, he had the David Horowitz guy on his front page. Where he was like promoting, yeah, he was promoting that on his front page. He had a speech by him, so reposting a speech by him. So they definitely get paid by these people.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. But he says, cool, excommunicated, blah, blah, blah. And political Zionism. Now all of a sudden he shifted the topic to political Zionism.
Yes, but you started out with a religious take.
I know, right?
That, that God still sees the Jays as beloved. So is it a political scheme that you're going after? Which one is it?
He's playing the same
religious
game
or
in the
political?
debate, because you were going to respond with something about political Zionism and you'd be like, it's clear that you don't understand. You're clearly an idiot. And it's like, all right, dude. All right,
the eternal conflation.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Right,
like, well, you're poisoning the well, because nobody said anything about political Zionism at all.
I said Zionism is a
Right.
anathema, which it is, because Judaism is. So, if we're looking at it in that perspective and understanding the scriptures in context, which he isn't doing, but he's using it as a support, like as a propaganda method to get Christians to have a Christian Zionist ideology, so they continue to support this genocide, right? And it's not only affecting Muslims, that's the narrative they want to push, but it's also affecting Palestinian Christians and just regular secular children and women and innocent people. You know what I'm saying? Like they are being affected by this thing, and of course, America, Israel says jump and America says how high. And it's always going to be like that because they got something on us. And, it is what it is.
Yeah, and then he says, but do not be surprised that I call the Jews pitiable. They are really pitiable and miserable. When so many blessings from heaven came into their hands, they thrust them aside and were at great pains to reject them. The morning sun of justice arose from them, but they thrust aside its rays and still sit in darkness. We who, nurtured by darkness, drew the light to ourselves and were freed from the gloom of their error. They were the branches of that holy root, and those branches were broken. So he reiterates the point that we were trying to make when he totally misunderstood Romans 9 through 11 in the debate, right? So, he's, here's St. John Chrysostom in his own words refuting his understanding of that.
Right.
And then
because he still says the branches are still there.
Right. Right. He totally misread, misunderstood, misinterpreted
purposefully, you know, very very strategically.
Yeah, most likely, right.
Yeah, you know, I mean, because he's been shown text after text, and when he is shown it, he says solo scriptola or solo sanctola or something. You know, it's like no amount of evidence is good enough because you know, he's got to push this to keep getting paid, and that's what it is. It's like, okay, crazy.
Yeah,
And Andrew Wilson's just as bad, you know, in this situation because you know, he almost gloats like you know, I'm helping these guys by debating them, you know, like what?
Yeah. Yeah, well, they admitted that. Well, as we'll see, they basically admit that. You know, and after he says he's gonna like wreck him, that he apologizes to him. So essentially, he's signifying that. I mean, both in the Jim Bob interview and in that Twitter where he apologizes to him, that he's willing to commune with the Antichrist. Yeah,
Yes.
'cause he said that is the Antichrist. So that is his words, not mine. You
And he
know,
said it was heresy. you know? You know, so he says it's antichrist, he says it's heresy, yet he's in communion with it. So what does that tell you? Like there's no you know, consistency, there's a bias here and a cognitive bias, and you know, you could tell for those that didn't watch, he sort of realized it a little too late. Like as it came out of his mouth, he realized it, like what he actually just said, you know, because you're acknowledging, you know, that this person's in heresy, and you're in communion with them, you know. And it's not just this guy, it's the whole patriarchate that have very similar beliefs to this. That's why he believes the way he does. Yeah. Then you got Jim Bob saying, well, we don't want to cause a schism, guys. Like, okay, so you want unity not based in truth. So
they on the one end, they're calling it between a rock and a hard place because they don't want to be called fascists for colluding with the Groypers, and they don't want to be called schismatics for then calling these people what they are. Right? And so it's
yeah.
very interesting. They're literally, they want to have their cake and eat it too. You know.
Yeah, because if they were to admit that the position of the church is that you break communion with heretics and that you can't have anything to do with heresy, then they would, you know, essentially be propping up true orthodoxy as being true, which it is, you know, and I'm sure that most of them are aware of it. They just don't care. You know, they're comfortable with their priest, they're comfortable at their church, they're comfortable at tea time, you know, and coffee hour. But when it comes to doctrine, yeah, you know, that's what it is. It's like, okay, when it comes to upholding the faith that you supposedly believe, then you know, it's kind of like, well, everybody does it. That's you know, that's kind of what they say. It's like, well, if we were to break communion with we'd have to break communion with everybody because everybody's an ecumenist. Exactly. That's our point. You know what I mean? Like all the patriarchates have been taken over. And they say we're fanatics for saying that, but it's like, well, you know it's true. So what do you do according to the canons? They don't want to follow them. So
yeah, I mean, I like the music, but it's I know it's not for everybody. You know, I like more like folky type of sounds. You know, I don't like new type of country music and new type of music at all. You know, obviously I play a lot of like jazz and like drum and bass and industrial sounding stuff on the show. And you know, so we kind of keep it moving in that direction, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't play that type of music that Jim Bob uses on his show, but yeah, I guess he's trying to appeal to a certain type of white people, like I think Andrew Wilson, you know, where he's dressed like, you know, like a hillbilly or whatever. You know, it's like hillbilly chic. And because he's wearing expensive hillbilly clothes, so you could tell it's just for show. You know, and then
Indie banjo player.
yeah, it's like some type of fucking banjo kazooie type of situation. But yeah, this is what my wife said too. She always hated when I turned on Jim Bob. She's like, I will not sit here and continue to listen to this retard. Right? She totally hated
Dang.
Jim Bob. She hated the show. She thought it was one of the most boring shows. I watched it just for the edification of my own points. I mean, right? Because I would think like, look what this guy's talking about. I would try to either relate to what he's talking about or try to refute what he's saying. And she just didn't like watching it at all. I mean,
Well, I mean,
yeah, that's right.
You do show like you don't have like a straight bias to where everything he says you say is wrong, because sometimes the guys do say true things.
Right. That's what I'm showing with the presentation we're watching now. We're trying to see what if there's anything that we can agree with.
Yeah.
But then putting it squarely on the Protestants, I mean, as we saw from Southern Israelite and all those guys, I think that they make a few good points. That it's also the Catholics, and others too. So there's a whole history in Europe that it's sort of being discounted. But yeah, then he says we had no share in their root, but we did reap the fruit of godliness. From their childhood, they read the prophets, but they crucified him whom the prophets had foretold. We did not hear the divine prophecies, but we did worship him of whom they prophesied. And so they are pitiful because they rejected the blessings which were sent to them, while others seized hold of these blessings and drew them to themselves. Although, it's funny that Jay Dyer didn't start his presentation with these types of quotes. On dispensationalism, right? Because this solidly, because I could spend maybe 10 minutes just explaining this quote that would put a bunch of things into perspective with Romans 9 through 11 and all that type of stuff, and really hit the point home, but
well, that's the beauty of the saints is like, for somebody that's in the tradition, if you claim to be an Orthodox Christian, you don't have to give your own opinions, and that's not a bad thing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Whatever topic there is, we can be like, okay, so here's a consensus about this from those that we consider to be, experts on these topics, and give what they said. And then, if you're an Orthodox Christian, then you hold them with that holds weight. You know what I mean? So I always go to those first. I don't want my own opinion because I feel like, I could lead people astray with my own opinion, I feel like these people are trustworthy, so that's why I go to those. As should they.
Yeah, and then he says, although those Jews had been called to the adoption of sons, they felt a kinship with dogs. We were dogs received the strength. We who were dogs received the strength through God's grace to put aside the irrational nature which was ours and to rise to the honor of sons. St. John Chrysostom. So let's go back to this presentation and we'll get through a little bit of it before at least we'll watch it for an hour more until I read this Shabbatai Zevi article on the false Messiah Shabbatai Zevi in 1666. And that'll be a continuation of what I was saying in our last two presentations.
It's not this ethereal, disembodied voice. So they also abuse the term word of God. And then to this day, Protestants still say word of God means the Bible, and it interpreted like, faith comes from hearing and hearing from the word of God. they interpret that as, you know, scripture readings or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep going a couple of seconds. I'm going to bring up a meme that really embodies this problem real quick.
Okay, no problem.
Personally,
if I can do something, I can. Sorry,
I would disagree a little bit there. I'm not trying to cause a dissension or anything like that, but I think like if you read Psalm 119, and which is the Masoret, I think it's 118. There's a lot of references in there to the law, and it's identified also as word. And I think there it is talking about the written text. So I don't see necessarily a problem with at times identifying the written text as the word of God in a limited sense, because as Maximus says, the content of the word of God, or the excuse me, the content of the scriptures is the same as the content of anything else about divine revelation, which is just the logi. So if we understand that it's not the Bible that is technically speaking the living person of the word, but in a limited sense, you could call it the law of God or the word of God, as that psalm does. It's just referring to the message or the content, which is ultimately Christ. And that's relevant for dispensationalism, because there's another key hermeneutical mistake that they make, which is that dispensationalists think that the Old Testament is not primarily about Christ. This is huge, because all those promises that they see in Genesis to Abraham, to the seed, to the nation, that he will make them as the sand of the sea, the stars of heaven, they see that as still promises to literal flesh Israel. And so if you don't have a Christological hermeneutic of the Old Testament, you're going to fall into dispensationalism, because they don't believe that the gospel was taught in the Old Testament. That's why we say, as Paul says in Galatians 3 and 4, Romans 4, and Hebrews 4, that the gospel was preached to Abraham and to the Jews in the wilderness. No dispensationalist can say that or believes that. So it's crucial that they have this rigid, what's called only grammatical historical interpretation of the Old Testament. No emphasis on Christology. They'll admit a few messianic prophecies like Psalm 22 or whatever, but they will not admit that there is a presentation of the gospel in the Old Testament. They would be really confused, I think, about theophanies, or the idea that the Trinity is in the Old Testament. All of this would confuse them. So they have this Unitarian idea of the Old Testament, which is what many other people have.
Yeah, and Galatians 3:29 specifically says those who belong to Christ are the seeds of Abraham and heirs to the promise. And that goes with what we were saying before you jumped on, Jay, that all of this genetic or racial ethnic view, that's very prevalent in this.
Oh, wait. Right? So they know the answer.
Yeah.
Right? They're just pretending like they don't know the answer. Pretty weird.
That
is because,
weird.
Yeah, this guy just said, the correct answer is that they don't have it. He just said a year ago that they don't have magic Jew blood or whatever. So why did they have to prove it now? And then also commune with the people who say they have it.
Right. There's no consistency here, because when it's a lot of talk and no walk, and that's what we see a lot of, and that's what confuses their people, and that's what keeps them stuck in this kind of trap, this heretical trap, because they go off of what they're saying, and they're saying, see, they say the right things. It's like, but they're not doing the right things. That's the issue.
Yeah, and then it's like, what Krakow was saying comes to mind. Are they supporting the cult by saying they're against it? Meanwhile, trying to get their followers on their side.
They are. They definitely are, because as long as you have that communion, as long as you're in Eucharistic communion, as long as you show support for those jurisdictions, and you show support for the ecumenists, and you write, polemics against true Orthodox that are pointing this out, then you're supporting this cult that's moving towards Antichrist, towards a one world system, a one world church. And nothing's going to change that, Like you said, they want their cake, they want to eat it too. They want to be right as far as an argument's concerned, but they also want to continue on this path of apostasy, which I don't understand why. I don't get it. I would assume it's delusion, but it's reached a point where it's past delusion. It's just being lukewarm. Like, I don't care enough, right? That's what it feels like.
Dispensationalism and basically a necessary prerequisite for the Zionist aspects of it are a product of modern understanding of ethnicity and genetics. And
well, just that phrase, the gospel was preached to Abraham from Galatians 3, and the gospel was preached to the Jews in the wilderness, Hebrews 4. Just that phrase, no dispensationalist could ever wait. No, there's no gospel preached during the era of promise or law.
Yeah, because it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, I wanted to show this meme because obviously from this person's view who posted this, they could swap out Catholic with Orthodoxy here. But it's got the Bible looking at the boyfriend who's checking out church history. Well, this is so stupid. It's actually a cell phone because the Catholics would be people and men, and the church history would be men. And that would require mind and interpretation and views. The Bible is presented as a person, as a being, as a mind, as some sort of entity. And that's ironic. Unironically, they posted this and they don't understand the problem here, that from their view, that is the problem, that the Bible isn't a being. There is no personhood of the Bible as an object with words in it. And they do fundamentally kind of turn the Bible into the fourth person in a weird, perverted way.
Throwback to yesterday's debate about
by the way, good job,
interceding.
Yeah.
I make the same
the Bible
claim, critique about when they say faith saves, they're almost like treated like
like that's the chief heresy of the Protestants, I believe, is turning the Bible into a idol, and and separating it from tradition to where it's like, where we understand that the Bible is a part of the tradition, whereas they see it as this thing that is over tradition or something, or separate from it. I don't know.
like an entity.
Right,
There's like Furies in like Roman mythology, there are these spirits called Furies. They're female spirits, and they go and possess people who do something wrong, and then you become furious, right? And apparently they see faith as that, you get this spirit called faith, and then it acts in your stead.
You sure it's not, Pasha, you sure it's not furries?
There are no female
furries.
It's all degenerate homos.
All right, I want to move along here because I do want to get especially to the cultural aspect that Jay was pointing to, that we're going to get to, because that's really, I think, is really the impactful part of this. Like, obviously the education of this is important, but how it impacts modern policy, geopolitics, which Jay is specialized in. I really want to get into that. So I want to move through this little overview, get a grasp of it. We don't have to go too far in. If you guys think there's something we should cover before we get into the geopolitical, Jay, let me know.
Will we be transitioning totally out of the theology stuff?
No, if you want to cover theology, but also cover it as we go into geopolitics, I think it's still relevant, because a lot of these like evangelicals, I guess, or maybe others you want to include, all of their patterns and their voicing of what we should do in politics and Israel
is that you're looking at atheists that come into orthodoxy with still an atheistic mindset, so they get quickly bored with theology and want to go straight to like politics and idealism and just sort of like materialistic,
like heresies and shit, right?
Dude, like, why do you want it? Why do you, and I'll give it to Jay there, where he was like, so we're just gonna skip the theology, you know what I mean? It's like, why?
Right, he's like he's so confused about the program, and then Jim Bob's like, no, I want the spicy details about like how it links to geopolitics, because he knows like that's what's gonna catch the people, is like the conspiracy stuff, right? But
because dispensationalism bores the shit out of most people.
But then it's like Jay's literally a theology guy that's hiding behind philosophy that barely knows anything about geopolitics because he's lying about it because he's like literally working for the Alex Jones types to gatekeep that type of info. So it's fucking hilarious. He's like,
I
oh,
would
like
know that when
yeah.
his organization supports the Zionists.
Right, right. He's totally like, and Jim Bob is totally delusional, like he's totally delusional about what Jay Dyer knows. Right, he's totally delusional about what he knows. He's kind of like, like he thinks he knows like way more. Yeah, and I like the word delusionable. Yeah, but yeah,
we can make that work.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like one time,
what do you think
I
that's
think one
rooted?
time I invented delusionment. Delusionment. Like, and I actually said that in my book, and then I never changed it because it wasn't a word.
Run it.
I mean, how else are they gonna get stuff into the dictionary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's rooted in, sort of being embarrassed, and feeling like, like embarrassed of the spiritual aspects of your faith, right? Like that's what it seems like to me. That I get that often.
That's funny.
And all these stances are really, wouldn't you say, largely informed by this broken theology, whether they even know it or not?
No, this is completely dominated, the American evangelical mindset, which is actually now spilled over into Protestant, Catholic, and even sometimes Orthodox mindsets. They get this, they get tainted with this idea that somehow a lot of this gibberish theology is somehow correct, and we still got to honor this stuff happening in the Middle East or whatever. I did want to add real quick that in Genesis 17, for example, this is another way to easily just refute this stuff. When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless, and I will make my covenant with you. So there's a promise, but there's the stipulation, walk before me and be blameless. So even the Abrahamic covenant is not a covenant where there are no stipulations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, at the end of Galatians, another thing that easily refutes this is at the very end of Galatians, Paul calls the church the Israel of God in Galatians 6:16. No dispensationalist could understand the church to be the Israel of God, right? So again, with Jesus in the parables, when he says that the kingdom of God will be taken from you, Jews, and given to a nation producing the fruit thereof, their nation stands for the Gentile nation. So it doesn't mean that Jews can't be saved, but it means that the national covenant with Israel is no longer going to be mainly about Israel. It's going to be opened up to the Gentiles. And if a Jew wants to be part of the covenant, they have to become a Christian. That's it.
Yeah.
What would they say to that,
Paul
Jay?
says that those who follow the faith of Christ, they are seed of Isaac, and the physical, I think he calls it Israel of the flesh, would be like Ishmaelites, because. And for those of you who need reminding, we have Ishmael. Sorry, I'm mixing up my languages. Ishmael, who is the son of Abraham through Hagar, his servant woman. And God says, no, it has to be with Sarah. That's why he's called Isaac, which means laughter, because she laughed when God said that they will have a child in their very, very advanced age. And even though there is a blessing that is still given to Hagar and Ishmael, and that's not Islam, by the way. There are people who claim that they would say Ismail, that's how they would connect a lot of things or attempt to connect it to the Bible, right? But St. Paul himself very distinctly says that no. The Israel is the people of Christ, not some genetic thing. And as Christ himself says, God can make children of Abraham out of stones. He doesn't need any of this. That's a message throughout the Bible. You can't really bribe God. So, good luck.
Yeah. And again, like that text, the kingdom of God will be taken from you in Matthew 21. That whole parable, thank you. is about the fact that the Jews had failed at what was essentially their covenant mission, which was to produce the Messiah and then share him with the world. They failed because they intended to kill him, but ultimately in divine providence and also by the prophecies which the Jews and even the apostles of the first century had misunderstood until Christ reveals it to them after the resurrection in Luke 24. They lost those promises and were divorced. This fulfills the promises in Hosea, the prophecies in other places in Jeremiah, where it's talking about God giving Israel a writ of divorce, a bill of divorce, because of the culmination of their sins. Matthew 23, Jesus says, all of the things written in the prophets, the vengeance of all of those periods will come upon this generation. Talking about his day, Matthew 23, because of their crucifixion of the Messiah. That's the culmination of their sins. We have this passage, for example, in Genesis, where God says they fill up the measure of their sins, talking in that passage about the Egyptians. Here we're saying, basically saying that when the Jews fill up the measure of their sins in the death of Christ, then the covenant will be opened, the bill of divorce given to national Israel, and the marriage to the bride, the Lamb. So God finds a bride, which is not the adulterous Israel. It is the church. The church is his bride.
Also, the cursing of the fig tree is part of this divorce.
So many of those some of those parables only make sense in this context. And the last thing I'll say is that the teaching of Athanasius, Cyril of Alexandria, John Chrysostom very clearly in his homilies on Matthew 24, even Origen, the tendency is to be partial preterist. What's funny?
It froze for a second.
No, I'm laughing because, thinking of pro-Zionist ideas in St. John Chrysostom, doesn't work that way.
Yeah, he's not very amenable to those ideas.
Oh, yeah. We shan't quote him on these.
Yeah, not on YouTube. Right?
Yeah, and still, when Andrew Wilson had the debate with this dude, and the dude literally said, St. John Chrysostom says great things about the Jews. The only thing that the guy said was, oh, he also says bad things about them. So you couldn't have just said that, dude, he overwhelmingly doesn't support it. Like, what? Like,
you see how much material he could have pulled from, man. Like, there's St. Gregory of Nyssa, there's modern Saint Nikolai Velimirovich, who, by the way, is venerated today. There's so many out there that have very valid things to say, and he could have quoted them and made a real statement. Instead, it was this, overly logical blabber, man. It's stupid.
Yeah, I can't believe there's 3 hours of this, but yeah.
Anyway, so partial preterism is the idea that a lot of what's happening in the book of Revelation and Matthew 24 and Luke 21 is the 70 AD destruction of the temple. It doesn't mean everything is. That's called full preterism. That's a heresy. That they believe that even the bodily resurrection has happened, which is stupid. But I did want to mention really quick, there are some great books on this that have been around for a long time. Kenneth Gentry has his THD dissertation called Before Jerusalem Fell, which is a really good book. All of these, by the way, refute dispensationalism. David Chilton has a classic commentary. He was almost going to become Orthodox before he died. He was on his way, and it's called Days of Vengeance. It's a chapter by chapter commentary on the book of Revelation. It's really good. It's been now superseded because people in his circles, like, I don't know if you guys know who Peter Leithart is. He's another person who's, even though he's Anglicanish Protestant, they've been borrowing from Orthodoxy for the last 20 or 30 years. So this is the Doug Wilson circles. Leithart just put out a new 2-volume commentary on the book of Revelation from this vantage point.
Was he talking about Aaron Leithart? Well, like, what Leithart is he talking about?
So I haven't read it yet. I just got it. I think it's going to be good. There's another This is a Methodist guy who was anti-dispensationalist, and he wrote a commentary on a lot of biblical apocalyptics. So it's actually Milton Terry's Biblical Apocalyptics. It's actually a good refutation of dispensationalism. A couple more really quick ones. This is another Protestant minister who was anti-dispensationalist. He wrote a book called Destruction of Jerusalem, George Peter Holford. So even the Protestants, ironically, after the advent of dispensationalism, even the Protestants were like on this, refuting it. And some of their books are pretty good refutations. David Chilton has another little book called Great Tribulation, which is good. So if anybody's looking for like...
So, I mean, what I'm interested in is the fact that most of his sources there were not Orthodox sources at all, right? It's like, seemed like majority of his sources were Protestant and Anglican sources. And even on the screen, you know, Bruce Gore, he's a Presbyterian, right? So,
right.
You know, they're criticizing Protestants, but yet Protestants are the ones that are exposing all of this. Like, what are you talking about?
This is what's funny is about in Dyer's particular jurisdiction, Rocor MP, Metropolitan Jonah, who he's had on his show, he always big ups Protestants, and I forget, I think it's an Angelican woman that he always pushes, and it's a very modernist take to do that. Like, Orthodox shouldn't go to Protestants for our understanding of anything, really. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if they, you know, I can understand his point. Like, okay, they even seen this and that it's an issue, and that's fine, whatever. But the fact of the matter is that the majority of those that have written refutations about this subject are true Orthodox. So we got like Archbishop of Urki, Saint Seraphim Rose, Vladimir Moss. These types have written on Chiliasm and dispensationalism and these types of topics on Antichrist and in the Book of Revelation. Like, there's monks that have done this, and like a lot of that stuff way better than anything he's pulling from right now. I can almost guarantee it. The book that I'm about to read, you know, Apocalypse in Ancient Christianity, like why not bring up those books? But when he does bring up those books, it seems like he's competing with them. Like, mine's better. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird.
Like a thorough sort of like immediate treatment. Even Bahnsen has a book. I'm not going to recommend his theology per se, but he has a good critique of this called House Divided, I think is what it's called.
Interesting.
So even the Protestants have been all over this.
Yeah. You talked about motivation a little bit. Well, today it's obvious. Everybody's talking points. We can get into the motivation today of holding this view or even a partial view of dispensationalism. But at the time, could we say that there's a motivation here, or could we split motivation with just crappy, hermeneutics and just adding all of this interpretation? Like, is it like, what I'm asking is, how much of it is like sort of an innocent, ignorant impulse versus is there some political motivation that can be talked about at this time with the guy on the screen, the guy on the right there with the weird look? Is there a motivation at the time?
I would say we could point to a motivation. Who's that guy that became Orthodox? He's put the most time into studying this topic. I'm trying to think. He wrote a book on the CFR. James Perloff has researched this a whole lot.
Oh shit! And we got James Perloff coming on. That's literally the guy whose talk I have. James Perloff, right? So interesting, right? That's great that he mentioned James Perloff, right? Because we have a talk.
James Perloff?
That's the guy on this special that we were watching. Let me show you here. You'll remember it.
Okay.
We were just watching this recently. This video right here with this Jewish guy, James Perloff, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we got him loaded up. We're gonna be going through that soon, but first I wanted to get through Jay Dyer's presentation. So we got the real deal there. Anyways, I mean, but yeah, he's right. James Perloff gets way deeper into this stuff. Right?
He ended up converting to Orthodoxy a couple of years ago. So I don't know if he's written on this or if he's going to write on this, but he's the first to really talk about kind of the timing of this in regard to the nation state of Israel, right? So the modern founding of it. So the Scofield Study Bible comes out in 1909 from Oxford, right? And if you follow the Quigley material, we know that the Oxford circles, Cambridge, Eton, these are all the upper, what's called Cliveden set, the Astors, the Milner, Fabian, Ralph, Childs.
And we're going to talk about the Carol Quigley stuff tomorrow with Southern Israelite. He's banking too hard on Quigley, and he's getting it from the Alex Jones types, right? And the John Birch Society, and they're putting too much on the Anglo-American establishment. Okay, they're blaming them and the Jesuits too much, right? In my opinion, right?
Tragedy and Hope, that Carol Quigley?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Circles. We know that they had a plan via Balfour, the Balfour Declaration, to set up this new nation state. It makes absolutely perfect sense that they would want to promote through this study Bible, right? This to prep people for, if it comes out in 1909, right? To prep people for a few years later, the establishment of the nation state.
It's like the PNAC. It's like the Project for New American Century, but with church.
Like a crappy PNAC study Bible.
Right. Right.
I mean, Scofield Bible produced originally by the Oxford University Press. You know, very, very suspicious immediately. I just think of accents like mine, but, you know, not taught, but grown up with.
Yeah, Project for a New American Century was when the CFR formed a Zionist group to write a report, and they basically planned all of the wars in the Middle East. Yeah.
Dang.
And I immediately think, oh, God, something's afoot, something very vile and planned for a century in advance.
So you can see the first issue came out in 1909.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, but Jay, how about when this guy was doing all of his work in his closet? Is there motive before that? Is there some influence there? If we go even back further, like when this is all getting sort of like, you know, cobbled together?
There could be. Perloff would probably be the person to go to on that.
Okay.
I'm personally unaware of any, but as I said, you know, they have this idea that church is a New Testament thing, the term itself, but that's ridiculous. The term, as I said, ecclesia, exists in the Septuagint. Congregation of Israel is in English rendered as congregation, but then church is rendered as, you know, church.
Paul uses the phrase the ecclesia in the wilderness.
Yeah,
the church.
Yeah. So there is a linguistic difference if your main resource is in the Septuagint, but even then, you have to consciously translate them differently. You know, as much as I don't understand why the book of Joshua is called the book of Joshua, but Jesus is called Jesus, and why no one decided to align them like it would be in Greek or in Serbian, you know, called the book of Joshua, Knjiga Isusa Navina, you know, son of Navi, and it's Jesus. But the same way, you know, then people don't make that connection because it's not that obvious that Joshua and Jesus are the same name. You have to analyze it. So to a layperson, it would be, you know, it would seem like you're trying to pull something on them.
There's an interesting section here in the Premillennial Study Bible on the life and history of John Nelson Darby. And one thing it notes is that early on, from 1827 to 33, Darby's ecclesiology and eschatology underwent a reformation. He was disenchanted with the relationship of church and state in England. He addressed these early writings to the fact that the church was a heavenly institution. He then garnered around himself a bunch of like-minded people for Bible studies in houses without ritual and hierarchy. So it seems like from the early outset, it's just church and state shouldn't be together. Church is a quote heavenly thing. I'm gonna start having home Bible studies.
Yeah, it's just a rejection and a rebellion of authority, just like the modern era. It's just like, what follows can be a bunch of garbage, right, in any direction, but it seems like the foundation every time is always the first thing is like, I'm going to reject authority, I'm going to reject hierarchy, I'm going to reject church tradition, authority, historicity, all of these things. I'm going to make my own stuff. And really, he's like the modern. I mean, I'm going to call these truther-tards Darbies now, because it's the same. It really is the same thing. It's just like a different take, but really the impulse is just the same thing every time. I don't need a church. I have a fire pit, Jay. Who are you going to tell me my fire pit doesn't do the job, Jay?
Interesting little side tidbit. You know who else was raised Plymouth Brethren? Another most famous person in the world.
Yeah, it's funny that he's, using the terms from Cockboy Hotline already, right? Even a year ago, right? So that's pretty funny.
Incepted.
Yeah, he's been incepted.
Elon Musk?
Crowley. Yeah.
Crowley, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but you get raised in these horrid, ridiculous cults, and then you end up all messed up. Shocker.
Exactly.
But I wanted to mention that Darby, not only is it not like a simple rejection of like sacerdotal priesthood or ecclesiastical authority, adherence or even promotion of such authority he saw as basically treason and blasphemy. So it is like, oh, you go and kiss the hand of some weird bearded guy in a dress. Like that's basically the level of his rebellion. But that also means you get full lateral and horizontal freedom to interpret things the way you want.
Here's an interesting piece of the puzzle that might help. This is a person I'd never heard of. It was while Darby was at Trinity College that he came under the influence of a theologian by the name of Professor Richard Graves, who happened to be an advocate for Judaism and Jewish people in the British Empire. Graves believed that through the conversion of Israel, it would bring about the end of the world. It would usher in the end of the world, and that a Gentile parenthesis had existed since the Jews had rejected the Messiah. So here's the.
Yeah, we got more on this later too. So yeah, it was pretty funny.
Origins is from this person called Professor Richard Graves. So I'm not familiar with him, but he would probably be the key character here.
Posh did say Jay will.
He's not. Like I said, that's just one guy. The main guys were the guys in the 14th and the 15th century that were laying down this stuff. With the Lurianic Kabbalah, Manasseh ben Israel, going into the 16th century, right? So there was all these guys way before that were Talmudic rabbis that were trying to combine Judaism and Christianity and do some kind of bit with the theistic evolution.
Right.
That's like some kind of medieval psyop, right?
Weren't they like the Franks or something? Is that what they're called? Or I don't know. Maybe I'm confused.
Yeah, well, there was a guy from France called Isaac La Prairie that was very influential on different people like Manasseh ben Israel.
Okay.
So this guy here, let me pull this up. Isaac Prairie, in the 1500s. Right. So there's a lot of people, as we already covered, there's a lot of people that going back, into the 1400s. You can get it. Oh, whoops. I actually shared that again. Yeah. Going into the 1500s, there's a lot of guys.
Are you familiar with the channel Restoration of the Breach?
I think so. I think I heard something.
Yeah.
But yeah, we mentioned this lady, Queen Christina of Sweden, who supported Shabbatai Zevi. So see, Isaac La Pereira, Perarius, 17th century predecessor, pre-Adamite hypothesis. Okay. And what is that? It's the theological belief that humans existed before Adam, and that's where the racial divides come from.
Oh, wow.
Of humanity, right? So this is the foundation for British Israelism, as we've also covered on this show. So we've laid down a foundation for all of this stuff already on our particular show, right? While they were doing all this, I was doing an entire series on the issue. Then, and me and Neurojack were remarking on why they were doing this special. We were like thinking that they were trying to gatekeep what we're working on.
That probably was the case, you know.
We were thinking that at the time.
Yeah. Well, it's usually like you'll cover something, and then like 2 days later or the next day they're covering it, you know.
Yeah, I was doing a deep series on this called Machiavelli and Melchizedek. That was the name of my series. It was totally weird and series that I did. And I talked about from the beginning, you know, like the Jews, the Alexandrian Jews, where the Alexandrian Jews came from, you know, and the reign of Alexander and the Maccabees, and you know, I gave some information about King Herod, and you know, I talked a lot about history and stuff. So
come with the folders. And you did. You came through.
So
now
I came with an actual Schofield study Bible with my name on it, bro.
Yeah, with your name, Golden Leaf J. Dyer.
Golden crust.
Golden crust.
This is interesting. You said that there is even a connection to rejecting Christ as God, as the Messiah, because the starting point of rejecting Christ as the Messiah basically necessitates a view that you could invent a new future to live into that you're waiting for. So it does make sense that any kind of rejection of Christ would allow for, like Posh said, horizontal, vertical building.
And also remember, based on that scheme that you have there, if you can be saved in different ways in the Old Testament or in that period, there's no reason why you can't be saved in other ways now, right?
Yeah.
So there could be a separate way to be saved for Jews.
Box.
Yeah.
Sure.
A separate way to be saved for Gentiles, separate way to be saved for Jews, etc.
Yeah.
What book did you just read out of? Sorry, Posh. What book? Yeah, what was that quote? Even though you didn't know who was saying it, what was the book
It's just
that was out of?
so this is a dictionary of all these people and their beliefs.
Oh, okay.
This is
nice.
the Darby entry underneath it. It says that he was influenced by Professor Graves guy.
Yeah.
It's not just the pictures at the cover that are good.
So you never told them the book. Like what the hell?
But I wanted to also say the whole apocalypticism that they're obsessed with leads to.
Is that weird, right? Like you never source which book he's like.
Wait,
he's like,
the one he just held up and was like, "Here it is."
He's like, "Here it is." It's like, what? I can't. It's like, like go back and try to see in the little square. Like what it's like. Ah, damn. Son of a bitch. But it's weird. Like, say it out loud, you putz. Like, what is this? I mean, like, cite your sources. You know, it's like all we have so far is a Bruce Gore presentation and a couple Wikipedia pages.
Sheesh.
Like today, like people who are, oh, Jesus come quickly, which is a horrible position to hold. The book of Revelations itself says that the blood of the martyrs is crying from under the altar in heaven. And the only reason why it's not yet heeded is that God still gives us time for as many of us to repent as possible.
You mean
so
like
to hurry
grace?
it up?
It's almost like you're kind of proving the point.
We were talking about that yesterday, weren't
not
we?
just
yeah,
or mercy at least.
You know, unbiblical. It's also cruel and shows the level of narcissism that comes with the faith alone position, where you sign, your name on the saved, charter, and there you go. Now you're safe. So you're going to be playing a harp on a cloud, and the others can pound sand.
Now,
Will
keep
Jesus
in
come
mind,
quickly?
so these goobers believe that they can do certain
Goobers.
geopolitical actions, like trying to. Originally, in the 1830s, the idea was they could be missionaries to Israel, convert the Jews. That would bring about the end of the world, the return of Christ. Right? What does Crowley think about the Book of Revelation? He thinks it's a ritual book that if you do it, it brings about the end of the world. So they have the same idea that you can do these actions like this is a technology, right?
Yeah.
To hasten the end of the world. The same, even Crowley has that view.
That's really interesting, Jay. Not to go off topic, but Crowley's, I would say, intimate relationship. I don't know what else included in that between him and Jack Parsons, who basically tried to materialize.
Yeah, that's why I think that this whole progress thing I've been talking about, or I talked about on the last show, and I'll continue to talk about it when we come back on, right? With the Elul piece that we're looking at is mainly a critique on several different ideas. Like, for example, okay, this sort of utopian thinking, it comes about, okay, in a sort of satanic understanding, but it also comes about in the scientific ideas, right? And it's also there in the dispensationalist ideas, whether they be Jewish dispensationalism or Christian dispensationalism, right? And they've also started to mix now, there'll be several movements gaslighting obviously Muslims, as we've seen, with the Mahdi and all of that type of stuff, and gaslighting Muslim eschatology as well. So there'll be a sort of Muslim dispensationalism as well creeping in to the fold.
All right, man. I'm heading out, brother.
Yeah,
Appreciate
blessings, homie. Yeah.
Later,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, we're not going to be here for that long anyways. But we're only going to watch like a couple, like maybe 20 more minutes of this. We'll see what it do. And there will be almost, I'd say halfway through this sort of presentation that they have. And yeah, I mean, I may watch the rest of this later on my own, but I don't think we'll return back to this presentation. If there's any notable points in the last half of this, I'll go ahead and remark on them on the next show. But this has been a rather slow presentation by them, right? And I'd really like to move on to more substantial issues like the Jim Bob and Andrew Wilson interaction. Okay, again, where they affirm that they're in communion with heretics, okay, who they call heretics, who they claimed that we're trying to usher in the Antichrist, right? But they don't want to schism over it. Again, finally, we'll move to the James Perloff presentation, which, as Jay Dyer already cited, is much more substantial in terms of its content and views, because he discovered some of these things and presented them to a mass public on several different platforms. But we have one of those presentations that he gave with the Orthodox Christian gentleman.
That particular view, but there was definitely some sort of ritual in his combustion experiments and rocketry.
No, he was trying
it's
to bring
kind
the
of
end of the world.
interesting.
No, he was trying.
Oh, was he? Was he
the
trying to
Babylon
do something?
working? The Babylon working is an end of the world working.
See, it's crazy how this stuff is like. I wish I had my truther music cue, because it is really connected. Yeah, totally works every time.
Everybody loved that at the live event. That was great.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, we're going to be doing another one. Hopefully, Jay will get a date. And if you need any help finding a location,
event, but
yeah, I'll try to just keep looking. I'm going to keep going with this, and you guys can determine how much theology you want to do, even when we get into some of the modern stuff. Like I said, it's still important. But if there's any more you want to do, I can keep going as long as you want here.
I want to look at some of these in a little bit more detail before we move on. The millennium itself is a standard premillennial conception. The idea that Christ reigns for a 1,000-year period of time, reigns from Jerusalem. All of this he shares with other premillennialists who basically developed similar ideas at that time in history. The millennium is immediately preceded by the second advent. Christ comes before the millennium, hence the term pre-millennialism. However, something unique to Darby's view of this is that the church is not present. All the other premillennial eschatologies see Christ reigning for this 1,000 years through the people who are the ones advocating this particular eschatology. So if you're a Seventh-day Adventist, he's going to rule through the Adventists. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, he's going to rule through the witnesses. If you're a Mormon, he's going to rule through the Mormons, you see. But Darby has a different view, a very stunning idea that the church is gone.
And this is to fulfill the promise, that the so-called unfulfilled promises to the Jews.
Okay,
this is why Jesus. So the church is raptured. Mm-hmm. Jesus comes back, rules in Israel for the Jews to fulfill those promises, while the church is in heaven.
So he's declaring the church is gone, right? Does that mean so the church is no longer physical, nor is it existing metaphysically in a sense? That's the view
it's
he's
just
saying?
in heaven, right? So for example, at the beginning of the tribulation, if you're a pre-tribulation rapture person, you believe that when the 7-year tribulation starts, the church has been raptured, it's been taken out. And so the Antichrist comes, right? The Jews convert, the Jews then start converting everyone, and then Jesus comes back, destroys Antichrist, and then rules for 1,000 years. And then there's the great white throne judgment resurrection. So the church is in heaven as Jesus rules on it.
I'd like to make a couple of points here. So one very basic critique of dispensationalism in this pre-millennial view is that it says that Christ rules for 1,000 years. Again, this was not an uncommon term to use for a lot. Like 1,000 is a lot. To us today, maybe not so much, because we live in times of tremendous excess of anything you can think of. But it just means a long time. You know, we have that even in Daniel, that after a long time, you know, we will get back to like the second coming or something. But it says that after near the end of that reign, because the strong man is bound, and that refers to Satan, that his reins must be loosened a bit. What bloody point is there in Christ coming back, ruling 1,000 years, and just let Satan loose? Like, from our perspective, Christ is ruling right now. The church is alive, you know, with all the problems that.
What's he doing then?
But near the end of this long reign, the reins of Satan will be loosened a bit, so things will get rougher. That is not to say I don't understand why people are so egocentric that they think, oh, now is the end of the world, and they find any single tidbit, which is a very, very Protestant way of thinking, you know, oh, this has happened, so now I will connect it somehow. World War II was a great place to think things are going to end. And we don't know. There was a guy who called in on this stream while I was on and said, you know, this is the first time so many Jews are back in, you know, Israel, or the land that is described in the Bible as promised to Israel. You know, okay, who says they will stay there? You don't know what's going to happen, right? But they keep latching onto these things and use it as this, you know, like tarot readings. Whatever.
Well, yeah, Posh, he was saying is basically bagel prepping. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, preparing the water for the bagel. Yeah, but you know, they have this idea that and use it as a technique, like you know, Jay described. Crowley had his own view on that, but there is no sense in why Satan would be loosened a bit, you know, at the end of the millennial reign. So that's a very common one you can all take with you, and you don't need who knows how grand a knowledge of theology to give them that example. But again, like with all types of these niche Protestant schools, they don't really go for logic. It's similar to Islam, you know. Allah knows best. You don't need to describe anything to who needs God, who needs to justify what God does.
Yeah. Also, Josh, the modern era
You should be
with technology,
seeking
you
this
think
knowledge
it could
to
be.
expose evil. That's something Christians
No,
are supposed to
no,
do.
we don't seek knowledge. That's Gnosticism. In our favor to get like a rigid, narrow truth out there, but it actually works against us. That, like you said, these people who are these apocalyptismos, they can piece together things and find things. Oh, did you see that? They're all going back to Israel. Oh, did you see this sign? Did you see the Olympics? And they're just kind of like constantly in this state of like fielding quick bits of information, digital Post-it notes, and filling up their basement, right? And not that they're even aware of these views, but they're still, they're actually interacting with this paradigm that we're critiquing right now without knowing it.
And another parallel,
But it's so funny.
Important for the
But I like
geopolitical
the Incredible Cope, right? Because they will hide behind, Muslims, right? When they want to fight against liberalism, they'll say, "Look, the Muslims can uphold their traditions," right? And they'll hide behind Protestants, right? Like right now, they're playing Bruce Gore, right? So Protestants and Muslims are the source of all the bad argumentation, right? But it's just interesting that that they basically hide behind those groups, right? Because who's actually critiquing the Jews then, right? It's like, oh yeah, you have to then hide behind all the Muslims and the Protestants that have been doing all the heavy lifting this whole time. So it's kind of sad that they jump to that, right? When they could take a more elegant critique. They can apply a more elegant critique in terms of looking at how the Messianic tradition applies to the Jewish dispensationalism and how both of those arose in Europe around the 15th century, right? Then you have an actual idea on how the movement started, right? Because you have the 11th century responses to Aristotelianism, right? And then all of a sudden, right, in the 15th century, okay, you have these new adoptions, right, where they've literally become corrupted for 300 years by Aristotelianism, and they've formed new factions, right? So it's pretty easy to trace this stuff for anybody who's actually studious, but yeah, they seem to have no nuance in their critiques, right? They seem to apply it, well, it's Protestants, and then, you'll get your token mention of Islam as well, per stream. It's pretty interesting. We're talking about John Nelson Darby, and this guy Posh Redneck starts bringing up Islam. It's pretty weird, dude.
Yeah, their stuff is not much meat to it.
Yeah, it's like compared to what we've been laying down, like there's like nothing here. Practically nothing.
It's like Pringles or something.
Right.
Where's the beef?
Right.
Another similarity with Islam. Islam teaches that Islam will go out into the world, but it will retract like a snake, between the rocks. It's going to become so incredibly small again as it began. But it also talks about, we are strong, we will conquer everything, So you've got both sides of the, dialectic.
What are you talking about?
Crazy.
They say that in all the traditions. They say that the believers will decrease over time. That's the opposition of progress. That's the opposition of dispensationalism. What the fuck are you saying, you retard? Right? like what?
So you can go back and forth. Anything good that happens, you see, we're right because things are going well. If things go wrong, you see, we are right because...
No, they're collectively getting worse. That's what all the traditions say. That's the point. It's anti-progress. It's an anti-progress narrative in almost all of the traditions. Okay, in Islam, the slave will give birth to its master. Right? In Christianity, wars, rumors of wars.
And the great falling away happens first.
The great falling away. Come on. It's easy to refute these things, right? We don't have to say, oh yeah, Islam teaches something different, Protestantism teaches something different. No, they all teach the same thing. Why do we have to lie about history?
Things are not going well. Likewise, with these types of apocalyptic thinkers, anything that happens is proof that you are right.
Everything is, yeah. It's all,
Yeah,
it's all,
there's no way to disprove it because they've captured both sides.
It's like climate change.
Yeah.
99. I'm not gonna read. I'm gonna read relevant ones for those of you Bob Chat or Super Chat, and it's not totally relevant. I will read it at the end. You can direct it to Posh or myself or Jay as well, but this one seems relevant. 999. If dispensationalist heresy is prominent in America, can we find any dispensationalists to obliterate in debates like yesterday? Shout out to Jay and Sam, you did very well. Highlight, by the way, they tried to pin you guys against each other. Sam geniusly just accepted heresy and said, pray for me. I thought that was a beautiful moment right there. Totally deflated their
we knew they were going to do that so from the outset.
Because now things have changed because he actually did a debate with Sam Shamoun. And now they're trying to debate Sam Shamoun and having a bad time with it. So this is a year ago where they actually had good relations with the guy. They actually debated with Sam Shamoun against Muslims. and they were celebrating their victory against Muslims, right, with a guy who does not support Orthodox theology, right? And then later they were regretting that when the guy called Jay Dyer gay liar, and then continued to attack his wife and all these other people. Right up. And pretty weird stuff from that whole thing where they sent Andrew Wilson onto his show to insult his wife.
Well, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, so they did a pretty childish response to, when they got called out for a debate. They turned into little children, even though they celebrated their pretty much a cordial debate they had with Muslims. I mean, where both sides obviously claimed victory. And it was a shitty
That's what
debate.
usually happens.
Yeah, it's a
It's
theological debate. Yep.
It's like if you're going to be insulting, at least try to be creative and not steal the same exact approach.
Right.
It's like, oh, you did it to me, I'll do it to you. Very, very childish.
Yeah. Well, we're almost done here, folks. We'll be back tomorrow, but let's watch a couple more minutes of this. What the hell?
Sam had said before the debate, he was like, I'm just going to say I don't know who's right on filioque and energies, whether Catholic or Orthodox. So, so I thought he was going to say that, but that ended up being a better rhetorical.
That was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome. And,
has he formally converted to any?
I don't think he's formally converted, but he says that he attends a Catholic church because they'll let him have the Eucharist, but he has to go through a catechumen process if he becomes Orthodox. And then he says, plus I don't know whether Orthodox are right on papacy and filioque or not.
Okay, but he hasn't made a formal declaration.
Not that I'm aware. He just goes there,
No, it's fine if he attends, but you have to get baptized or at least, not christened, what do you call it? Chrismated. Something needs to happen before you're formally part of it. And as far as I'm aware, he hasn't. So they were just, even though they have different understandings of Islam, they were trying to impose the same type of disparity between the two.
Plus the fart, Jay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the fart
is one of the
that was appeal to flatulence.
I mean, yeah, they're full of hot air. What does it say? Right?
That was funny. He didn't even flinch. Okay, we'll keep going here.
So you had somebody had a question.
Oh, sorry.
Real quick, there was somebody asked.
Someone farted.
I don't know. We debated. I don't know, but we saw. I haven't seen whatever they're talking about. Right. Pretty weird stuff. But in the debate he had with the Hakikaju guy, right? That guy literally, obviously both of them were defending Judaism hardcore, right? But it seemed like Jay Dyer, he seemed to cite Gershom Scholem and rabbis talking about the dual nature of God and all of this type of stuff, and cite the Kabbalah in defense of Orthodox Christianity, which seemed rather strange move. Right, so I covered that debate, and yeah, that was not a
strange is probably putting it lightly. That would seem more like a heretical move.
yeah, and that video is out there. It's permanently out there, right? So we could definitely pull that up and show that to people. It would be very easy. Seconds. It would take seconds to show that, right? And we've done that many times, but yeah, it wasn't looking good then at all.
Is preterism the same as
Yeah, I
premill? No, preterism is just the idea that many prophecies about what people think of the end, Matthew 24, Luke 21, and even much of the book of Revelation, that it's
Mark
about the
13.
things occurring in the days of the people experiencing it. So, for example, John, if you believe in the early date for the book of Revelation, was writing about the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. So many of those things, I don't think anybody really doubts, unless they're super evangelical, that some.
Yeah, I really want to know what that slide is that says pro-Palestine on there. That's what I'm really interested in, you know?
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah, the thumbnail, I got an even weirder thumbnail tomorrow. You know, even stranger. So I think I'll make the video link right now for tomorrow, right after I get off of here. But yeah, you know, we're doing a little bit of things here. And here's a little bit on the false Messiah Shabbatai Zevi, and tomorrow we'll be doing episode 666.
I kind of want to put that thumbnail as a reply to Ridvan's post about anti-Zionism is anti-Israel.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's so true.
What do you do with these guys?
I know, like, what are these guys? What are they doing?
You know,
5
they
dancing
do
Israelis.
exist.
And then right underneath it, 5 dancing Israelis.
Oh, bad trombone.
You know, it'd be funny. Yeah, that's the way to do it. You know, put these guys in line. But yeah, it says here, false Messiah. The activities of Manasseh ben Israel, this is a continuation from yesterday, and the Rosicrucians of the Hartlib Circle culminate in the announcement of Shabbatai Zevi as a declared Messiah, an event that swept the Jewish population of the world in 1666. After his proclamation, accounts of Zevi's activities were exaggerated and spread among Jews in Europe, Asia, and Africa. His popularity grew as people of other religions repeated his story as well. The Messianic movement spread to Italy, Germany, and the Netherlands. And the Jews of Hamburg and Amsterdam heard about the events in Smyrna from Christians, Manasseh's co-conspirator, Queen Christina. Became so fascinated with the claims of Shabbatai Zevi that she nearly became a disciple. She danced in the streets of Hamburg with friends in anticipation of the apocalyptic event. The Jewish community of Amsterdam, where almost the entire Jewish community had become followers of Shabbatai Zevi, had been kept informed of the progress of Shabbatai's mission through Peter Serarius, at whose home Manasseh ben Israel first shared his conviction in the imminent advent of the Messiah. As soon as the news reached Amsterdam about Shabbatai Zevi, Serarius was publishing pamphlets in English and Dutch telling everyone about the signs of the Messianic era and the King of the Jews had arrived. Among Serarius' intimate friends were John Dury and Comenius. Okay, remember Jan Comenius of the Moravian Brethren? Okay, both of whom he was able to convince about the messiahship of Shabbatai Zevi. Serarius was also in contact with alchemist Franciscus Mercurius van Helmont. Okay, this guy Van Helmont, you know, he was a huge guy that's linked to a lot of philosophers and thinkers in history, right? I think including Leibniz and Spinoza, right, if I'm not mistaken. And then it says that Christian Kabbalist Christian Nor von Rosenroth was a friend of his, famous for his Kabbalah Denudata. Von Helmont had served on a diplomatic mission on behalf of Elizabeth of Bohemia, the daughter of Elizabeth Stuart and Frederick V of the Palatinate, who was living in Hertford, Germany. When he met with Henry Moore and Robert Boyle, Serrarius was also in contact with another acquaintance of Manasseh, Henry Jesse, a founding member of the Puritan religious sect who worked behind the scenes of the Whitehall Conference. Serrarius sent regular reports to England, where the known millenarians like Henry Oldenburg associated with Manasseh. Serrarius had also been informing Jean de Labadie, Labadie, 1610 to 1674 on the progress of Sabbatai's mission. Originally a Jesuit priest, de Labadie became a member of the Reformed Church in 1650 before founding the community which had been known as the Labadists in 1669. In 1672, de Labadie and his followers sought refuge with Elizabeth of Bohemia. In 1676, Elizabeth also met with the son of Sir William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania, and also a friend of John Dewey. Penn became close friends with Elizabeth Stuart, celebrating her in the second edition of his book, No Cross, No Crown. Penn was a member of the Lantern, a circle around Rotterdam merchant Benjamin Furley, which included alchemist Van Helmont, Lady Conway, Henry Moore, and John Locke. Furley and Van Helmont were also connected with the group of students of Jacob Boehme. Okay, Hegel writes in his I believe in his lectures in the history of philosophy, right, that Jacob Boehme was one of the most important German philosophers to ever live. Right, but the guy, if you look at Jacob Boehme's work, he was more like an alchemist or something like that. So it's like, what philosophy is Hegel referring to? Because he's not traditionally seen as a philosopher by anyone, really, except for Hegel. And here's another connection. It says, it says Van Helmont were also connected with groups of students and friends of Jacob. Van Helmont were also connected with group of students of Jacob Boehme, which included Serrarius, who knew and associated and were friends with Baruch Spinoza, who I theorize, obviously he was exiled by the Jewish community of Amsterdam close to this time, right? So there's a lot of weird political movements going on in Amsterdam around this time, right? And I think the bad press of Spinoza calling into question the theology of the Jews and the Protestants, right, at a time like this was not a good idea. Right, because he was declared, or one of his charges was saying that, God was material. Right, because they said God is immaterial, right? So it says, but I think that's an oversimplification of what he's saying. Furley, like Penn, was a Quaker, close supporter of George Fox, the founder of the movement, which provided the guiding principles of the new state of Pennsylvania. According to American Rosicrucian legend, the order was brought to America in 1694 under the leadership of Grand Master Johannes Kelpius, born in Transylvania. Kelpius was a follower of Johann Jacob Zimmermann, an avid disciple of Jacob Bohm, who was also intimately acquainted with Benjamin Furley. Zimmermann was referred to by German authorities as a most learned astrologer, magician, and Kabbalist. Answering Penn's call to establish a godly country in his newly acquired American lands, Kelpius and his followers established a colony in Valley of Wissahickon Creek in Philadelphia. After announcing himself the Messiah, it was believed that Shabbatai Zevi would march on Constantinople and take away the rule of the Ottoman Sultan.
I might have walked near Wissahickon.
But that's weird.
A couple years ago.
Oh, really? But yeah, that's weird that they're that the prophecy of Shabbatai Zevi taking away Constantinople. That's exactly what the Orthodox saints say. Right? That Russia would hand Turkey back to Greece. Pretty interesting, huh? So Constantinople is part of the Shabbatai Zevi prophecy. That's pretty interesting. Of course, he feigned conversion, right, to Islam and became a crypto Jew of sorts, as legend has it. Zevi spread his announcement widely together without bloodshed, and that the Messiah would then lead back to the 10 lost tribes of the Holy Land. However, Zevi was arrested. And though legend has it that Zevi was forced to convert to Islam, it was instead the Sultan's physician, a former Jew, who advised him to do so. Viewing Zevi's apostasy as a sacred mystery, some of Zevi's followers in Ottoman Turkey imitated his conversion to Islam and came to be known as the Danme, from a Turkish word meaning convert. They practice Islam outwardly, though secretly keeping their Kabbalistic beliefs. The Danme community was localized in Salonika in Ottoman Greece, which by the time of Zevi's mission was renounced as a haven for conversos and the center of Kabbalah and rabbinic scholarship. It was described by one writer as the only Jewish city in Europe. The Danme maintained associations with a number of Sufi orders. This is largely based on the contention that Zevi's exile into Balkans brought him into close contact with several forms of heterodox Sufism in the region. Salonika was also known for its Sufis, like the followers of the path of Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi, known as the Mevlevi, who made famous for their whirling dervishes. The Danme became actively involved with the Mevlevi. Shabbatai Zevi incorporated both Jewish tradition and Sufism into his theosophy, and in particular was to have been initiated into the Bektashi Sufi order, which long had associations with the Danme. The order was founded in the 13th century by Persian saint Haji Bakhtash Veli. The Bakhtashis incorporated Kabbalistic doctrines in their beliefs, which also comprise a syncretism of shamanism, Buddhism, Manichaeanism, Christianity, and Neoplatonism. They maintain a secret doctrine revealed only to initiates that involves contempt for Muhammad, the founder of Islam. They tend to ignore most conventional Islamic rules, such as abstention from alcohol and pork, the veiling of women, and the requirement to face Mecca when praying. This is all we got today, folks. Blessings. Reddington, would you like to say anything to these people? These scallywags?
Like all four of them. maybe it's not a good comparison, but it's almost like the following Zevi had is analogous to the Q-tard movement. I think Trump's like like the good guy, and the white hats are winning and shit like that. Playing 4 or 5D chess or some shit.
So for the next go around, we'll see if we could broadcast to the channel there, but we'll keep 666 on this channel here. But we'll come back and just try to attract people to some type of a show, in which we reflect on greater aspects of dispensationalism. John Nelson Darby. We'll look at Perloff's presentation. We'll look at the Jim Bob thing with Andrew Wilson, and yeah, I think that'll be the entire thing. I'll see if I actually saved anything that stood out to me that actually I wanted to add to this. There was something about Piers Morgan being on The Apprentice. Uh-oh. So there's connections there. And but yeah, anyways, yeah, he was one of the first people on The Apprentice. But yeah, anyways, we'll talk to you guys soon. Tomorrow, we don't know what time we'll come on, but I'll try to test out a message tonight on the main channel and see if it'll go through on the community post. And for that, I'll put this series there or something like that, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's about what we have here today. And yeah, thank you guys. Blessings. And of course, we laid down a comparable week of presentations here. And actually, we gained a actually small amount of traction here on the alternative channel. So that's actually been very useful. I think going abroad, that will be very useful. But yeah, blessings, guys. Here's some music for you guys. Blessings.
Remember Omega, but I'm the Alpha scene. Senator like Palpatine. Count your green, to you that's what life means. So I teleport through light beam. Cause I got the hype gene, threat technology. This is the next biology. Expressed through autonomy. My spine is economy, my physical's digital. For those whose eyes only see what is visual. Till it becomes virtual, thus less personal. Yet it feels closer, no organic composure. It's over, no the intro's the part that never ends. Progresses yet never extends. Boundaries known, laws embedded in stone. Dating past the first Senate in Rome. Felt by every human upset and alone. Yet never acted upon, hence the birth of the bomb. Firestorm, where lords and sires mourn. And dark souls traverse earth to inspire scorn. With a block to chop murderers and liars on. Poisoning every life form until science gone. Crush this realm in thoughts I'm propelling. Got me globally wanted for plot and rebellion. Life we're living's got nothing but death in store. It's time to settle the score. We don't play when it's time. Never been in this position before. Another man tore in the tradition of war. No arms, no legs, plus you're missing a jaw. Where rebellion is considered a condition and flaw. Construction creates the illusion of progress, so we notice less the fact that we regress. Suicide solves woes of the depressed. 3 men rob a bank and shoot the clerks in the chest. People watch it on the news and still snooze. Wake up and go to work again, hoping it don't happen to them. Talk shows bring a so-called specialist in, but then cut them off the flash ads during intermission. Politicians rise high in the polls to control man-made power, then give the okay, the bomb shower, till the very essence of life is made sour. It's our strength the economy needs, but they know that we are all subject to many greeds. Here's for pretending to accommodate our dreams as a law. It's time to settle the score. I've been dropping on the low, on the outskirts, up in the brush without curts, starting my own tribe of those with their minds open wide. When we clashed, many of yours died, not by our hand, but the pain of the brand of the evil inside. This was the day God cried, and Nimrod tried to burn off my lock slide, chop up his neck hide, invisible, yet majestic as expected. Within me the spirit of life's resurrected. I potentially possess sun's energy. My last flow made grass grow and provided a tropical breeze for blast flow. I knock down buildings when winds blow, raised in the waves of defeat, but I believe we can win, so I offer you true power as my record spins slow. Not by the minute, but clearly, yearly. The people pump this so the government fears me. As long as we communicate, I'll never grow weary. Endure, it's time to settle the score. Don't play when it's time is don't play when it's time is late. This life is hard, my mental level is odd. Like devils versus gods, there's a war inside my mind going on. Squads represent each separate emotion, 3/4 of us. It's made of water, now it's land versus ocean. Soaking this like open wrists. Had this bitch sucking my dick for poker chips. Deep throat and shit, then she sucked her own tit. I got bizarre shit, you're just a moving target. Take a style, dissolve it, like a twitch is made of brown sugar vomit. Fright night of the comments, 7 Islamics named Muhammad, rocking scimitars. Give the illest scars to the godless, unworthy ones. My verse is 30 guns, blasting off north, my rhymes are sawed off. I'm hip-hop, I can't be bored off. I blast scripture like a fracture blister. Attack the system like when cancer hits a random victim. Splatter liquid like a twisted sponge. Like a biscuit hit your lungs, twitch your tongues. Be putting rhymes in circulation like it's drugs inside bloodstreams. I like to visit other countries and see other things. The universe is all ours to explore. That's what my mother thinks. My brother thinks most cats are shady. I think he may be right. But fuck the darkness, I'ma try to focus on the light. I'll be the true and living ruler of my world. I want world peace, so if you got beef, stay the fuck away from me, chief. The green leaf is spark like soldiers stomping through a swamp without high boots and radiation suits that's glowing in the dark. It's like a tribute to myself. I'm burning kids like they was real cheese, and every time I open up my mouth, I kill MCs. I've seen the greatest men destroyed by cowards, so I watch my back. Most of these cats are so damn whack that they be lost without their gas. That's not to say gat is evil. Only people can deceive you, make you bleed the wounds that never heal and leave your spirit feeble. It's depressing, but the truth will set you free. So just accept it. You don't even have to like my shit so long as you respect it. Without the positive, we can't exist. Without negativity, we can't exist. Without the sunshine, we can't exist. Without the darkness, we can't exist. Hey yo, without a little love, we can't exist. Without liquor and drugs, we can't exist. Without 3 religions, we can't exist. Without the television, we can't exist.
It's like my views are ancient, rusty like basements, studying spaceships. Ain't no probe with metal prongs, testing temperature placements. Teeth of a dragon, face of a lion, children of Zion, half-breeds who defecate iron.
flying, burnt to flames. We find robots who bobble insane. Unknown intelligence, sons of the sun with astral resonance. Bigger than rap, I live a life of decadence. Turn mass to energy, medicine man, telepathy, conspiracy, Tel Aviv. Up in my pyramid, never derivative, without less plate. Confess state, more like stones in my breastplate. We militant, we legislate laws with no decency. 98 brothers use brains and low frequencies. One time for sharp kids, killers who biblical. There's two ghettos, one of the mind, the other physical. A break fool and be on that hunt for other nakers. Race haters and pigs in white sheets running with Quakers.
Without the inner self, we can't exist. Without oxygen, we can't exist. Without a bag of weed, we can't exist. Without a little greed, we can't exist. Without some real friends, we can't exist. Without the dividends, we can't exist. And yo, without photosynthesis, we can't exist. Without mass transit, we can't exist.
Prepare for mental combat, I react like 20 gats and holster straps. Ready for nothing, that's something to take me down or hold me back. Then I come back only to walk down mean streets like Perry Thomas. I'm a seminar with 8 masters who practice the art of conscious. Beware of toxic water, drinking tap could be a death trap. A setback to leave our arms folded and our necks back. Existence leads back to Egyptians and conflictions. War missions, color, greed, property, and fake religions. Battle scars, nudity bars, a million stars who crash the earth. Leave us jerked and out of work. Forcing our mind to convert to carry weapons for aggression. Ruger M77s crash the heavens like our demo did at Geffen. Now we prepping barracudas, run computers. Deja vu is forming fluids in our brain to reenact the deep attack that caused the pain of social differences. Existences, the listeners and businesses. Now fiction is like menaces, walk the world until it finishes.
Without some food stamps, we can't exist. Without reproduction, we can't exist. Without a clear mind, we can't exist. Without a little pride, we can't exist. Without self-respect, we can't exist. And yo, without some intellect, we can't exist. Without the old school, we can't exist. Without the real truth, we can't exist.
The riddle gets solved.